Good morning. I'd like to welcome everybody here, and I'd like to call on our committee chairman to give their report or give their adoption of their minutes. Let me begin by calling on Susan O'Connor to convene the Audit and Operations Committee for adoption of minutes.
I would be glad to do that.
Go, Ms.
From wherever you are.
And may I request in the future, we have a 5-minute warning.
2 is enough.
Mr. Chair, the Audit and Operations Committee met, so I would like to call our meeting to order for the Audit and Operations portion of this, and I'd call on Dr. Brown for the roll call.
Trustee O'Connor.
Here.
Trustee Dana. Here. Trustee Walton.
Hello.
All present.
Yeah, I can't hear anything either. This is Bentina.
This is Timothy May. Can't hear.
Hey. So I just emailed Bailey. I'm going to email
Bentina, we can't
somebody
hear
else.
you.
Bettina, can you hear
I'll
us?
email Becky.
No, we can't. This is with Timothy and I on. Can you hear us? We can't hear you guys.
Yes, we can hear you fine. Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you now, Kim.
Great.
But
We
I
just need to
can
remind
barely
everyone
hear
to speak
anything
into
else
the
before that.
microphone.
Let me remind everybody, not only are there a lot of people on the phone, but you have hearing impaired people at the table, so all you mumblers, please speak up and into a mic.
Amen.
So once again, good morning, everyone. This is Susan O'Connor in regards to the Audit and Operations Committee. I'm calling my committee to order, and let's continue the roll call, please.
All are present.
All are present, thank you. You have all been given the opportunity to review the minutes ahead of time, and if there are no changes or corrections, may I have a motion for approval of the February 25th, 2014 minutes as presented?
So moved.
A second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And if there is no further discussion, this meeting will be adjourned. Mr. Chair?
Thank you. I'd now like to call on Mort O'Sullivan to convene the Finance and Facilities Committee for adoption of the minutes.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Finance and Facilities Committee and call on Dr. Kim Brown for a roll call.
Trustee O'Sullivan.
Here.
Trustee Cleveland.
Here.
Trustee Lewis.
Here.
All present, Mr. Chair.
You've been given the opportunity to review the minutes ahead of time. If there's no change or corrections, may I have a motion for approval of the February 25th, 2014 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Trustee O'Sullivan. It's now my pleasure to convene the Executive Committee meeting for adoption of the meeting minutes. Dr. Brown, could you call the roll?
Chair Bear.
Here.
Trustee O'Sullivan.
Here.
Trustee O'Connor.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee Patel.
Here.
Trustee Cleveland.
Here.
All present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You've all had the opportunity to review the minutes of the Executive Committee from February 25th, 2014. Do you have any changes or discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. I'd now like to call on Jay Patel to convene the Student Affairs Committee for adoption of their minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Call the meeting to order. Dr. Brown, can you please do roll call?
Trustee Patel.
Here.
Trustee Hill. Trustee May.
Here.
2 are present, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. You have been given an opportunity to review the minutes ahead of time. If there are no changes or corrections, may I have a motion for approval for the February 24th, 2014 minutes as presented?
So moved.
A second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Bob Jones, Would you please convene the Academic Affairs Committee for adoption of their minutes?
Okay, the meeting of the Academic Affairs Committee is called to order. Dr. Brown?
Trustee Jones?
Here.
Trustee Terry?
Here.
Trustee Huff?
Here.
Thank you, all present.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for our February 25th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Okay, the motion is adopted. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. I now want to call the Board of Trustees meeting to order. I'd like to ask who's joining us on the conference call.
Trustee May, Timothy May.
Trustee Bentina Terry. Here.
Dr. Brown, could you call the roll?
Chair Bear?
Here.
Trustee Cleveland?
Here.
Trustee Dana? Trustee Dana? Trustee Hill? Trustee Huff?
Here.
Trustee Jones?
Here.
Trustee Lewis?
Here.
Trustee May?
Here.
Trustee O'Connor?
Here.
Trustee O'Sullivan?
Here.
Trustee Patel?
Here.
Trustee Terry?
Here.
Trustee Walton?
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking Susan Shaw and the faculty and students for allowing us to have our meeting here. It was delayed from earlier in the year, and we just always enjoy being here and enjoying this beautiful campus, particularly the drive through Hurlbut Field and Navarre. Most exciting thing I've done in the last week. But we always enjoy coming over here, so we do appreciate it. Thank you. We are happy to be webcasting today, this meeting. I want to remind you that time has been set aside during our meeting to allow public comment on matters coming before the board today. If you want to speak on any item on the agenda, please be sure to fill out a form. The form is on the table right over there under the speaker. You'll need to turn it in to Becky Lunsford prior to the speaking period. Becky, raise your hand. Good. And so we do appreciate it. Make sure you do that, please, before the public comment period. It's now my pleasure to call on Dr. Judy Benz for the President's report.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
up.
Chair. I am here and I am ready. I want to lead off my report by welcoming Coach Peach Shennick. Is he here today? There he is. There he is. Coach Shennick is going to lead us in our first kickoff to our for football for the University of West Florida, and as you know, it will be our 15th varsity sport. So, would you like to just say hello?
Yes, would love to.
Please do.
Thank you all very much, and I am very honored to be the first head coach at the University of West Florida, and I want to thank you for that opportunity, while also thanking you for starting football. I've been around the game my entire life and love what it can do in a young man's life and what it can do to add to a campus as well as add to a community. And I've been on campus now for about a month and a half. I've already had numerous student athletes who are 2015 graduates, some 2016 graduates from the surrounding areas as well as other states visit me, talking about the excitement of having football on your campus. So I am looking forward to this process, and again, appreciate this opportunity to be here today. And I did this at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, and now 8 years later, the opportunity to do this again. The things that took place at UNCP, I'm just very excited to see happen at the University of West Florida. To think of the hundreds of student athletes from football who will graduate from this university who would not have come here without football, to see that as part of our future is very exciting. So with that, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And again, thank you for allowing me to say hello.
When we were looking for our first football head coach, we were looking for someone that would put academics first and athletics second. And I do believe that Coach Pete Shinnick meets that criteria. We are very pleased to have him join our university. Now I'd like to share with you some news from Tallahassee and around the state. I was in Tallahassee for almost all of last week, and of course the major topic is the Board of Governors metrics and the productivity measures that are being proposed. Each president was required at the Board of Governors meeting to make a presentation to present their plan for improvement of the metrics, and that was last Thursday. I am going to give you a more detailed report on the metrics so you will know almost ad nauseum detail what we are doing and what we plan to do. The legislative agenda that is going well in Tallahassee, funding from last year, recurring funding, excuse me, which is vulnerable for everything in its second year in your base. When money is put in a university's base, it cannot be vetoed by the governor. He can't touch it. And no governor likes that. And it is a tradition in our state for the governor to be upset about that and to take that money out and give it away. Of course, this governor did. The legislature does not like that. They put the money where they wanted it, and they want it there, so thank you very much. And so it has, almost all has been put back. So the programs that we got last year with new money are the Doctorate of Physical Therapy, the Doctorate of Nurse Practitioner, the Adult Degree Completion money, the SB, Small Business Development Center money, and IT Performance funding. And so I'll give you news on that, but it's almost all of it is included in the House. They said, that's the way we put it, that's where we want it, that's where it's going to stay. And they have the last word. The Senate is a little bit short right now, but we are going to be working to level that out and hold our position over the next 6.5 long weeks. Facilities. We have on our list one item which is $11 million to do half of the stud-to-stud renovation of our biology lab, wet lab science building. It's where it needs to be. It's in the top 3 of everybody's list, and it is in the House budget. It's not in the Senate budget. We think it will be there, but it probably will be a bargaining chip. And so we are working to get that on there. Now let's talk about tuition. The governor asked us last year, you as a board, and all the boards in the state, not to enact, or what would you say, implement, the statute that says if there is no tuition increase from the legislature, the universities may increase their tuition by the Consumer Price Index, which last year was 1.75. The boards voted to increase that, and of course, the governor wants that statute repealed. The Senate has passed it to eliminate that, and the House is thinking about it. Another proposal is to reduce differential tuition. As you remember, that's for undergraduate level courses, and a third of it goes to financial aid for financially needy. 2/3 of it goes to undergraduate education. The proposal in this House is to reduce it from 15% to 6%. The proposal in the Senate is 0. That's where it stands. The next issue is on veterans. The Florida the Senate has passed the Florida GI Bill, which waives out-of-state tuition for all honorably discharged veterans. It also appropriates $1.53 million to the Department of Military Affairs to fund tuition and books for National Guard veterans. And National Guard, as you know, has changed its role in the last 10 years in the wars in the Mideast, and they have been left out of their program so far, and Florida wants to fix that. So I think that's it has passed in the Senate. Now, there is a bill for public-private partnerships. There were two bills last year. The one that was what we all wanted in the university world did not pass, but one did pass, and it did not include universities. It included colleges, but it didn't include universities. It included state agencies, but it didn't include universities. We're asking for universities to be placed in it, and that will give us more flexibility for construction and financing, and when we enter public-private partnerships. We think that is moving. Everyone likes it except the governor. So in the legislature, the governor may veto it, but that's the way it sits now. So that's where we are on the state level. It is interesting. Universities are on the lips of many legislators, and it is our issues are being discussed a lot. Now let's drill down to our campus. We held a commencement, as you all know, last fall in December, and we awarded students earned 963 degrees. They were from 23 countries, 33 states, and they ranged in age from 19 years old to 74 years old. And there was 26.9% diversity. I believe that's a record, and we are very proud of that. Now, in the spring, we have several big deals on our plate that are moving forward. First is our SAC-COC reaffirmation of our accreditation. Our compliance report is due in September, and we are on track, and the on-site SAC-COC team will be on our campus next spring. Provost Saunders is heading that up. She's cracking the whip, and a lot of people are involved. Dottie Minear is the Sergeant-at-Arms, and I anticipate it's a lot of work, and it's right now, it's the most, getting that report out in September is just huge. It's, just stacks and stacks of reports. The second thing that is very important, and I would argue crucial to our university, is the implementation of a module of the platform called Banner. The module that when we first became independent, when the Board of Regents was dissolved, universities became independent, we did not have a software platform. And so we bought and installed and used Banner Financial. Right, Susan? We did Banner Financial first, the module. Now, the next module is students. And so we are in the last phases of implementing that. It is actually up and operational. It is called the Student Information System. It includes admissions, financial aid, student tracking, counting students, where are they, what are they doing, and it has been a multi-year project, and it's in its final phases. The next thing is academic reorganization. Provost Saunders will provide an update on that later in the agenda, but I just want to tell you that it is moving along very well, and I'm just really happy. BEI, Business Enterprises Incorporated, are moving forward. We're having a groundbreaking on April the 4th, which is a week from Friday, on our east gate for the 4 restaurants, or the restaurant complex. I kind of refer to it as that. And Dr. Barnett will provide some information on that later in this meeting. We also have adopted a new diversity plan for the university for 2014 to 17, and we will begin rolling that out next month in April, which is Diversity Awareness Month. Now, another aspect of our university is research awards. 75 proposals went out, have gone out this fiscal year for a total of $42 million, and we have received 52, which is 60-70% of those, and it totals $20 million. That's a good batting average. I also now want to share with you a little bit of the development highlights that Vice President Kelly has been heading up. Dollars in the door. He has a goal every year, as did former Vice President Marrero. And he is, Dr. Kelly, is at 93% of his goal of $3.5 million, and it is not even close to being the end of the fiscal year. So we want to congratulate you for that. That's a lot of money. This is a new area for Vice President Kelly, and you're doing very well. Thank you. We've also accumulated more than $19.7 million since 2011 for our planned gifts and pledges, which are, what do you call it? It is applied to our 50th anniversary campaign, which is $50 million. So you could argue we're 40% there already. So that's great. We've also received lots of other gifts. The biggest one and the best one is from Chair Bear Family Foundation. $1 million. Thank you. We are honored, we are humbled, we are pleased, and we're happy.
Do I get my money back if you don't get your engineering?
You get a hug.
Chair Bear, you go get your engineering program. We got a $100,000 gift from an anonymous donor for engineering. We have, I'm just going to hit a few highlights, $100,000 from Penn Air, federal. Something that is dear to the Provost's heart is $65,000 from the Kugelman Foundation for the final pledge, and the honors program is now a named program. It is the Kugelman Honors Foundation program, and that is wonderful. We don't have many named programs, and now we've got that one. Other gifts range from the Chadburn Foundation, $31,000 for business ethics. The Dan McMillan Foundation, $25,000 for the Masters of MSN, Master of Science of Nursing, Scholarship Endowment, and so on. It is a good year for the University of West Florida's donation, contribution, and charitable receiving gifts. Now, my last topic is on our students and faculty achievements. Provost Saunders has reinitiated the Distinguished University Professorships. The award serves to recognize full professors, which is the highest level a professor can reach, that excel in teaching, scholarship, creative projects, service, and contribution to UWF and faculty colleagues. This is the sweetest award a faculty member can get. You get $7,500 for 3 years to do what you want to do with it, related to what you said you were going to do. $10,000 a year for 3 years to enhance work on what the professors are doing. It can be travel, material, supply, equipment, or assistance. And you get one course reassigned. This is sweet. I always wanted this. I never got it. I never applied for it, but I never got it. I think it's great. Now, the three that got it are Dr. Raed Amin in mathematics and statistics in the College of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Athena Dupre from the College of the Department of Communication Arts, and Dr. William Huth from Marketing and Economics in the College of Business. They're in good shape. Now, with our students, one of our Masters of Business Administration MBA students, David Brinson, earned the title of Grand Champion by placing first in the International Business Strategy Competition. Wow. Okay, so all of you know that we do business strategy and that David Brinson is #1. So let's give him a hand. Right. Our nationally famous UWF logistics team went to the national competition again. They placed 4th. They don't like 4th, they like 1st, but they have placed in the top 4 the last 6 years in a row. So Dr. Keller is on top again. The Health Occupation Students of America team took home Outstanding Chapter Award in the regional conference. The students took home, 9 students took home first place awards and 5 placed second in individual regional. At our mock trial team hosted our 3rd annual Argo Invitational in January. It was sponsored by our new partner, our law program partner, Stetson Law. We now have a 3+3 program for our students to go to finish their law degree in 3 years at Stetson. Dan Radcliffe won Outstanding Witness Award. I mean, it's a mock trial, okay? And, leading universities in the South, Auburn, USF, Kennesaw State, Mississippi, College for Women, Georgia State, and the University of Alabama. And this is particularly sweet. One of our music students, James Matthews, has been invited to perform at Carnegie Hall. James Matthews, Carnegie Hall. Now, any of you, the general public, knows how special that is. And I am absolutely impressed with that. He was chosen as an American protege in the International Piano and Strings Competition. James will perform on Sunday, April the 20th in New York City at 11:30 a.m. in Carnegie Hall. So at that time of day, on that day, you know, things are good. I don't know if we can send our flag up there to be on the Carnegie Hall stage or not. They'll probably throw me out for asking, but maybe we'll see what we can do. And the last but not least is our women's basketball team. The women's basketball team won the Gulf South Conference Championship. And they had an awesome year. We've never won it before. I have been talking with the existing commissioner, the new commissioner, other presidents, and they're saying, what are you doing down there with women's basketball? Well, I'm going to tell you, Coach Stephanie Yelton is one crackerjack coach. She has overcome extreme personal hardship in the last year and has taken it to the house. So, Dave, thank you for bringing her through and supporting her. Her team is great, and there are great things to come from Coach Stephanie Yelton. So, thank you. I got in the car on Saturday night, drove up to Birmingham for the Saturday morning basketball game. After all, I deal with history. It was a historic moment. And I didn't like it on Monday, but I loved it on Sunday. And we had a good time. We have a lot of several important events that I'll close with. Tonight we have a lecture by Robert Edsel, who is the author of the book Monuments Men. Many of you have seen the movie Monuments Men. And as an anthropologist, it is important. Cultural heritage and cultural objects mean a great deal to people, and they were rescued. And he is speaking tonight at 7 o'clock in our music hall. So if you'd like to go hear the story behind the story, go listen to Mr. Edsel. On Monday, we also have an interesting person on campus. His name is James Johnson. He is speaking on Northwest Florida disruptive demographics. Disruptive demographics means it ain't like it used to be, and it's on the change. It's moving. And what that means to us, implications for entrepreneurship and our workforce development. 6 o'clock Monday at the Commons. Honors Convocation is April the 4th. Festival on the Green is next weekend, April the 4th and 5th. And spring commencement is May the 3rd. And with that, Mr. Chair, I conclude my report for our university.
Thank you, Dr. Pence. It's now my pleasure to call on Provost Martha Sanders to recognize special people.
I'll call on Director of the Emerald Coast Campus, Susan Shaw, who will do a presentation. While she's making her way up here, I want to note that the Emerald Coast Campus is of great strategic importance to academic affairs. They do outstanding work here under Susan's leadership, and we're very proud of the work that they do.
Okay. Today, I would like to introduce to you, I'm sure some of you know him, but Dr. Tom Gilbar. And Dr. Tom Gilbar is the director of our engineering program here. He's also an advisor, and we just learned that he was selected as Advisor of the Year for UWF, which says a lot because he also teaches classes here. And one of his students is here, and he's going to talk to that in just a minute. But what you really don't know about Dr. Tom Gilbar is that he also goes into classrooms of elementary school and middle schools, and he teaches our science showcase. And I had the pleasure of being with him about a year ago when we went in to do a photograph for the Quest, which is our publication, and into Mrs. Rosensbleek's second grade classroom, okay? There, he was demonstrating the power of magnetic attraction and how it creates an electrical shock. What you wouldn't want to see is the students were lining up to be shocked. Some of them more than once, okay?
Tom, torturing second
I
graders.
know. No, seriously, I have wondering about our future. No, really.
Right.
And some of these students were so interested and so engaged. And I'm so excited. I know that they're future STEM students in some of our programs. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Tom Gilbar.
Good morning. What she didn't tell you is that my daughter happened to be in that second grade class. And she was one of the smart ones that wouldn't let me electrocute her. But, usually it is a fight to see who gets in there. But she is right. We do continue with our science showcases, and we actually visit middle schools most of the time. So it's our way of bringing the sciences to the kids, because a lot of times it's harder to get the schools to come to us. So we've decided to kind of flip it, and we bring our sciences to them. So it's not just my electrical shock treatment. We also bring biology, and we bring some other science majors to them. So again, we're trying to get them in the middle school where they're really trying to decide where they're going to go. So we're working on that. We got other stuff. We've got the Science Olympiad that we help sponsor at the university. We also still have Best Robotics going on, as always. And we have Gulf Power professional development courses that we offer for Gulf Power employees to help them move up in the ranks and get them a little bit more into higher ranks in engineering and understand a little bit more about what's going on and what they're doing. ABET, you probably heard, but our ABET came through. We had a clear bill of health and we got the full 6 years, so we're very excited about that. That was a lot of work, and ABET's very rigorous. And Sachs also came out and visited us and checked out our Reef campus, and we were also our Reef campus is now accredited and recognized by Sachs. Last year we did a search. We got 2 new faculty members, 1 robotics and 1 power, both of them female, which is very difficult to do. So we're very proud. We moved from 6 faculty up to 8 full-time faculty. So we're very excited to have added them on. The inclusion of our robotics faculty, she has taken over the Unmanned Systems Lab over in Pensacola. So Dr. Folks, who used to take care of that, is actually based out here at the Reef. He can now focus out here. He's working with our IEEE group, and our IEEE group just entered the Southeast Con, the hardware competition. So we can start getting some UAV things going on out here also. So we're excited to get that started. Our relationship with UF is still going strong, and we're still very happily based out at the Reef. In fact, we've added a second distance learning room because our program's growing so quickly that we just needed the extra room. We just didn't have enough space to offer all the courses we need. So one of our faculty, actually 2 of our faculty, Bassam Sher and Mohammed Kabu, got a grant, so we were able to add a second classroom. We're working on the cybersecurity program. We also have a sustainable energy program that we're starting up with our online courses. One of our faculty, Mohammed Rashid, was nominated for the Distinguished University Professor Award. We are developing exchange programs with a couple of foreign universities. I don't want to announce them quite yet because they're not completely in place, but hopefully we'll get those. We are looking at your new engineering program, Chair Bear. If we have our options, we will have those up in place and running very soon. So we're exploring the options, and what we really want to do is do it the right way this time and make sure that we're offering it in both locations, because in terms of community demand, we really want to make sure that we can offer out here for the bases, for the people on the bases, for the support out here. So we're hopefully going to start that engineering program and have it in both locations. And again, we're already working on that. Our students, there's something called as Myron Zuckerman. It's an international award through IEEE. It's for undergraduate research, and again, it is international. We found out that one of our groups, one of our Reef senior design groups actually took first place, but thinking that wasn't quite enough, one of our Pensacola groups actually took second place. So we took 2 out of 3 in this international competition.
Good.
So we're very excited about that.
We like to win.
Yeah, we'd like to
Darn
win.
right.
So do we. Again, we've gone to a couple of hardware competitions. Our students also move on after they're finished with us. We've got a student that had a full ride scholarship to Carnegie Mellon for his master's degree. We've had students go to Georgia Tech. FSU, UF, UCF, USF. We've got students all over the place that finish our program, go on straight into graduate school, but also start working. We've got a couple of students that are at Gulf Power. Avalax is a huge supporter. I went to visit them the other day, and they actually, I swear, half their employees are actually UWF graduates. So, so we're very excited about how quickly our students are picking up those jobs. Unless you think they're all into just the hardware stuff, our students also, we have a very active IEEE chapter out here. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but there's something called a mud run, and students participate in the mud run. It's for charity, for orphanages, so they participate in that. And also they dressed up like bananas and ran from zombies last Halloween for the zombie run. So, so it's a very good group of students, and we're very excited to have them. Yes, insane students. Yes, an engineer running in a banana suit from
We never did anything like that when we were young.
One of them was complaining because there was a 7-year-old zombie. He didn't know they could sprint, and he was taken very quickly, so he was not a happy camper.
Do zombies not like bananas?
I don't know where the bananas came from, but again, they're
Yeah, what's a banana?
The zombie
showing
liked him,
our
right?
age,
He got caught pretty quickly. Like Susan said, I did bring one of our students with us. His name is Josue de Jesus. He's actually a second de Jesus that we've gotten. We were hoping he would follow in his brother's footsteps, but he's actually taking his own path, and he's actually an excellent student also. So we're hoping to get a whole lot more de Jesus students. So we figured that that you might want to hear from one of our students and what his experiences are at Reeve. So so we brought him in to speak to you. So Pepe, if you want to come forward, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. First of all, for the record, I didn't dress in a banana suit. So. Also, my mother would like to thank you for making me finally shave my dirt stash. So I just wanted to tell you that as well. Dr. Gilbar knows how I look with all my scruff, and my hair is all frilled up.
You look very nice today.
Thank you. I started college at age 15 under the dual enrollment program at Northwest Florida State College. I graduated last May and then began taking classes here after last fall. So I've only been here for about 2 semesters, but even in my time here I've learned quite a bit. First of all, I think the thing that appealed to me most about UWF, specifically the Reef campus here near Shalimar, was first of all the convenience. It's something my brother had done. But having the opportunity to be able to commute just 20 minutes from my home not only saved money from having to pay room and board, but it gave me the opportunity to keep a lot of the jobs I have here on the weekends, help me be able to pay for college, and keep financially stable, not going to the student debts like many do. And to me, that was the biggest thing, having that opportunity. I'm very grateful for the Reef and the facility they have there it's really convenient. Second of all, once I made it there, I realized that the faculty and staff there is a lot different than the average faculty and staff, anything I've experienced from Northwest or anything else. Not to say that the faculty and staff at Northwest wasn't good or anything, but just Dr. Gilbar and Dr. Fuchs and Shire and Ramachandra and all these teachers, and I don't think I've met one who doesn't seem sincerely interested in the topics and in the well-being of the students. Just sending emails to them is just immediately, giving an answer back or asking for help. But at the same time, they challenge you and they encourage you to think analytically and try to process the information. And it's really just an incredible experience. And then even with the registration and trying to get your classes in order and class lists and schedules and stuff like that, I mean, that's Dr. Gilbar sent me an email the other day telling me some kind of number, that pin I needed to have for registration that I knew nothing about had been fixed. So, things that even go above my head that he's already kind of fixed in the background. And I'm sure that's just a few out of many things that he does that I don't even recognize. But just the faculty and staff there, I can't emphasize enough, and I say this sincerely, not out of flattery, but really, truly, they're incredible. They know their stuff. They're very, very willing to help the students. And then the third thing I really like, especially about the Reef specifically, is just how streamlined it is. I guess I'm homeschooled, so I guess that means I'm antisocial and all that, which is maybe why I'm going into engineering. I don't know. But coming at the Reef was a nicer transition, I guess, because I see from many colleges there's a lot of student activity, which is wonderful, and that's all very great. But coming at the Reef was very nice, where you're there, and it's almost like my brother who had gone here as well kind of compared it. It's almost like going to work. You key card in at the start of the day, key card out at night, and you're with the same people all day. You know, the same students taking many of the similar classes, and that's the kind of experience I always wanted in college. Something that's very streamlined, something that gives you the information you need in a format that is very basic, but it has everything that you need to get the proper kind of education. And that's something I appreciated specifically at the Reef. Another thing it taught me, just taking classes there, was also with the class load that you would normally have going into engineering, is that it's not just about getting this knowledge from different people or technical knowledge, but also work ethic in many ways. And I would submit to you, I think if in college you go there and you gain a lot of head knowledge, but don't learn how to work effectively and efficiently, then it's really not worth much. And that's something I'm happy to say that I feel like I have not quite made it there yet, obviously, because I have a lot of things to do tomorrow that I have not done. But at the same time, I feel like I've learned quite a bit just managing my time. So, you know, something's due tomorrow and something's due in 2 weeks, but, you know, just learning how to work effectively and efficiently is, I think, another thing I learned here. So it's not just all about head knowledge, but it's learning how to work as well, which I think is just as valuable a skill as anything else that I learn and am learning right now. But like I said, and like Dr. Gilbar mentioned, he mentioned the students real quick dressing in banana suits and going on runs. And I was actually not one of those students because I'm boring, relatively speaking. But I think that's another thing is the students there, we all know each other and we hate each other and we're all friends at the same time just because, I said hate, I didn't really mean that. I didn't. But, you know, I know people, the IEEE president, and we just all know each other very well because we see each other every day and we're taking a lot of the same classes. And so just knowing these people so well and studying in the same room for hours on end is kind of a blessing in disguise. It's a very nice, just overall, specifically at the Reef, it's a very nice experience where you've got the teachers right next door and you've got a paper-thin wall as well. But you can just go to their offices and ask them questions, and they're always right there to answer whatever questions you have. Just the entire experience there I've had specifically at the Reef has been amazing so far. And I look forward to what it brings in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I like to think Josue is one of our other types of non-traditional students. He's only 18.
I wondered how old he was.
He's 18. So later on I'm going to give you an update. It's on the agenda for later on the Emerald Coast. But right now I want to introduce Dave Scott, who you all know is our athletic director. And I've known Dave for about 20 years. We worked on the initial Argonaut logo 20 years ago together. And I feel like I understand what he does because I grew up in a very athletic family because my father was also an athletic director. It's very challenging. He's just finishing his 6th year. And in those 6 years, our athletic booster club has grown from 150 to 700 members, which I think is huge. He also has the honor of passing Troy University as the all-time most Gulf South Conference championships. That was at 59. We are now, as of today, 75 conferences. So we're just way ahead now. Okay. Also on the national scene, of course, you know about our national baseball championship and softball championship. But what you might not know when I did some research is that for each of these 6 years, Davis had at least one of our teams advance to the national level. So that's a real accomplishment. So without further ado, Dave Scott.
Thank you, Susan. It's a tremendous honor to be here this morning, as it always is. We've been blessed to be able to make some presentations to the Board of Trustees and excited about the one this morning. Glad that you've met Coach Schennick. We think we have selected a great individual to lead our football program as we develop that program, and hopefully you get an opportunity today at lunch or through breaks to get a chance to get to know him a little bit better. This has truly been a blessed year. Our fall sports did really good. It was the first year for women's swimming and diving, who finished 23rd in the country. It had 4 swimmers and 2 divers make it to the national meets for a first-year program. That's just really a great thing. With that, our fall sports have done well. Our spring sports, tennis and golf, are top 10, and baseball number 3 in the country. Hope you have an opportunity to come out and watch some of them play. But this morning, we really want to have a special recognition. If I could get Coach Yelton and Tessa Holt to come up. You know, we've been able to present some conference championships, but as Susan was saying, this is our 75th for the University of West Florida, and each one of those come with a lot of with challenges and what people go through to accomplish that, and some great student athletes that represent our university. But this morning, Coach Yelton was Coach of the Year. She was also Coach's Mom Inc. of the Year, and she'll introduce Tessa Holt, one of our great student athletes here at the University of West Florida, and make a couple comments, and then we'll present the trophy to the chair and the president.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, it was with great honor I stand in front of you today. I mean, this was a dream come true, winning our conference championship this year, the first ever in women's basketball for the University of West Florida. Of course, as coaches, we know we can't do it alone. This is not my award. It's not the team award. It's our university's award. It's you as Board of Trustees, and with the great support from our president and from our athletic department, we could not have made a championship run without the support that you guys give us. So we want to thank you for that. But I do want to introduce Tessa. Part of our success this year was her. She has a very special story. She played with or under me when I was an assistant coach at Boston College. She finished her undergraduate work there, gave me a call and said, Coach, I have 1 more year of eligibility, and I'm looking to pursue a master's degree. And I said, I've got the perfect place for you in Pensacola, Florida. And Tessa came down and was a huge impact player for our program this year. She won all conference honors. She was the most outstanding player in the conference tournament. She carries almost a 4.0 GPA in our grad school right now. So a great student and athlete. But I'm going to let Tessa give you a few remarks.
Hi. As she says, it has been a journey for me. I started my freshman year at the University of Florida, and things didn't work out, and then I moved my way to Boston College, where I loved the coaching staff. Academics was good as well. And then finally I decided to follow Coach Walton down here, and it's been a journey. This year has been like by far my best year as far as academically and on the court, and I've enjoyed like just being here. Like, I love Pensacola. I was telling her on the way here, like, I wanted to move down here and make this become my permanent resident. But I have to finish school and see how things work out. But I love Pensacola in general. Like, the support system is great with the president, our vice president. Like, you guys, we were very shocked to see you at the game. We was like, wow, like, to make history at West Florida, it's very amazing. But I want to take the time to personally thank each and every one of you. It's been a great experience. So thank you.
Thank you.
First one, women's basketball. Good. She'll tweet that out in 1 second.
Louis, you got Susan's letters all over your face.
Okay. Thank you.
That's going to be an interesting picture.
That's pretty special. I don't think we could wear, any of the trustees could wear 2 rings, so thanks for not giving us another ring. We're going to be probably the most endowed with trophies of any school in the United States before our president is finished.
We have a real problem in our trophy case. It's serious. It's a good problem. It's a good problem.
Exactly. Dr. Kelly's got plenty of money to build you a new trophy case. I'd now like to approve the minutes of the December 13th Board of Trustees meeting and the March 3rd conference call with Chancellor Kreiser. You've all been given an opportunity to review and to read those minutes. So if I could have a motion to approve the minutes.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Now I want to call on the committee chairs to give their reports. I'll begin with Susan O'Connor for the Audit and Operations Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Audit and Operations Committee is recommending the acceptance by the full board today of 5 items addressed on February the 25th. Item number 1, Betsy Bowers provided supporting information for the approval of the acceptance of the internal audit report, Attractive Assets. This audit and 2 findings, both related to strengthening controls. Ms. Bowers and Janice Gilley provided information and recommendations on the acceptance of the Office of Economic Development and Engagements, which also had 2 findings related to documentation and ongoing compliance of the program. All of these findings are currently being rectified by the management. Item number 2, in addition, Ms. Bowers provided information regarding the acceptance of the external audit report for WUWF FM for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, and there were no audit recommendations. Item number 3, then Ms. Bowers addressed the recommendation for acceptance of the NCAA agreed-upon procedures engagement of intercollegiate athletics performed for UWF for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013. And again, there were no findings. Item number 4, Ms. Bowers reported the results for the second quarter fiscal year 2013 to 14 for the internal P-card audit reports and recommended approval to accept these reports. 16 departments were reviewed this quarter. 8 received excellent ratings, 5 good, 3 fair. And for those receiving the fair ratings, action plans were developed for improvement. Item number 5, Ms. Bowers presented the recommendations to accept the Florida Auditor General Operations Audit Report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013, and the university's implementation plan for corrective action. We had 5 findings, and the findings were related to strengthening procedures for outside activity reporting, electronic funds transfer, P-card program, providing an updated notice to individuals when their Social Security numbers were collected, and IT controls. And management is addressing all of these things adequately. We also had 1 informational item. An item update on internal auditing activities was provided to the Audit and Operations Committee also by Betty Bowers. This concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Trustee O'Connor. I'd now like to call on Trustee Mort O'Sullivan to give the Finance and Facilities Committee.
We have 5 items, action items for approval by the board today. Dr. Jim Barnett discussed the approval to ratify the UWF Business Enterprises, Inc. Board of Directors approval of February 17, 2014 of A, the land use site plan, and B, the development agreement and right of entry documents for the East Campus Phase Argonaut Village. The committee had a lengthy discussion about this item, and we asked to be kept up to date on progress as appropriate. Jim is giving an update to the Board of Trustees later today on the agenda. Dr. Jim Barnett explained the recommendation to ratify the project described in the Master Pre-Development Agreement between Balfour Beatty Campus Solutions, the developer, and Business Enterprises, Inc., approved by the BEI Board of Directors on February 17, 2014. As on the previous item, the committee had a lengthy discussion about this item, and we asked to be kept up to date on progress as appropriate. Jim is giving an update to the Board of Trustees later on the agenda today. Dr. Jim Hurd explained University Regulation 2.005, use of facilities, and the recommended amendment to include 1, remove references to specific supporting policies and replace with a more general statement that appropriate policies and procedures will be maintained. 2, update the name for Business, Finance, and Facilities Division. And 3, describe the actual practice of managing non-university organizations' use of space via established procedures. If approved, these amendments will go into effect March 27th. Dr. Hurd explained the current UWF Regulation 5.010, Educational Research Center for Child Development, and the recommended approval to amend the regulation approving child care and service fee increases. The fees will increase by 0.08% to 5.13%, depending on the age of the child. If approved, the new fees will be implemented beginning fall semester 2014. And finally, Dr. Hurd presented the recommendation to approve an increase effective fall 2014 in the Capital Improvement Trust Fund CITF fee by $2 per credit hour, from $6.76 to $8.76. We approved this increase last year, which is recommended via a student member committee, but it was rejected by the Florida Board of Governors. So we would like to proceed in requesting the increase again. And finally, we had one informational item. Dr. Susan Stevenson provided the committee with an overview of the fiscal year 2013-14 operating budget summary. She concludes that overall UWF is in sound financial health. This concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Trustee Patel, could you please give us the Student Affairs Committee report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Student Affairs Committee had no action items for approval. However, we had 6 informational items. Number 1, Dr. Jim Hurd presented the proposed amendment to UWF Regulation 5.010, Educational Research Center for Child Development, which was an action item on the Finance and Facility Committee agenda. Number 2, Dr. Hurd also presented the proposed UWF Regulation 2.005, Use of Facilities Amendment, which was also an action item on the Finance and Facility Committee agenda. Number 3, Dr. LaShawn Wiley gave a PowerPoint presentation on the genesis of the Argo Pantry, the first ever food pantry on campus. Number 4, Dr. Gentry McCrary presents statistics on the demographics of UWF students who violate the Student Code of Conduct. He discussed the trends of alcohol and drug-related violations and the future plans to address behavioral concerns. Number 5, Ms. Micah Harrell made a presentation on the Wellness Service Program review process and results finding. She explains the strength of the program and listed 3 ideas for improvement related to distribution of the assessment data, expanding partnership, and aligning missions with the academic mission of UWF. Number 6, Dr. Jim Hurd explained the proposed increased Capital Improvement Trust Fund CITF fees. This too was an action item on the Finance and Facility Committee's agenda. This concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. It's now my pleasure to call on Trustee Jones to give us the Academic Affairs Committee report.
At the Academic Affairs Committee, we had 2 informational items that we took up. The first was that our provost, Dr. Sanders, provided an update outlining the new organizational chart for the Division of Academic Affairs and the reorganization goals and the next steps that would be taken in that reorganization. And she offered special thanks to Dean Bob Dugan and Interim Deans Dr. Michael Huggins, Dr. Stacy Wintery, and Dr. Tim O'Keefe for their leadership throughout this process. And she's going to provide us an update on this process later in the meeting. Dr. Matthew Schwartz provided an update and information on the key issues, the development group, and creative strategies included in UWF's 2015 Quality Enhancement Plan. The Quality Enhancement Plan is required by our accrediting agency and is going to focus on communications for professional success using high-impact practices to improve student written and oral communication. And that took some of that to say all of that in one sentence, didn't it? That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. It's now my pleasure to present the Executive Committee report. The Executive Committee met on February the 25th as well. We ratified the Police Benevolent Association's bargaining agreement for 2014 through 2017, with the only substantial change being that the officers wear bullet-resistant vests. We also approved an MOU that allows the PBA members to participate in the university's equity funding plan. Lastly, we received an update from President Benz on the Board of Governors' proposed performance metrics. We'll hear another update on this topic today, a little later in the agenda. That concludes the committee reports. Before we move on for the public comment, I'd like to take a 10-minute break. Thank you.
Good. Yeah.
There's no time for a warning. We've got to make our move. We can't wait until morning. We'll use the light of the moon. We've got love on our side. We're one step ahead. There's no time for lies. There's no time for regret. Right or wrong, we'll hear the angel song and lose our fear, and we'll disappear. Yeah, we'll disappear. I'll kiss your lips when you're dreaming. I'll keep a watch when you sleep. And I won't stop believing when time makes me weak. We've got love on our side, we're one step ahead. There's no time for lies, there's no time for regrets. Holding on to love we can't give in, 'cause right to cry till I was dry. Still sometimes I get
It's almost showtime. Susan O'Connor, I'm giving you less than 5 minutes notice. You going to celebration tonight?
You deserve that.
If you please have your seats. I'd now like to call on Dave Cleveland to have his seat. It's probably a better chance to get a 5-minute warning that we're going to take a break than one that we're going to end it.
Okay.
It's now time for our public comment. Becky, do we have anybody that wishes to speak?
No, Mr. Chairman, we do not.
All right. Thank you very much. There are 11 items on our consent agenda today. All were fully discussed during the committee meetings, and all of the recommendations of the committees reflect the proposed action provided with the agenda backup. Does anyone wish to pull any item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote on the list of consent agenda items. If I could please have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. All right, it's time to move to the other action items to be addressed by the board. We've got to, we have a list of meetings. We'll meet 4 times this year. The meeting schedule is in line with Board of Governors meetings and Foundation Board of Directors meetings. Conference calls and emergency meetings will be scheduled as needed. Committee meetings are scheduled 2 to 3 weeks prior to the full board meetings when possible. Everyone was given a copy of the dates at our last meeting, and you were asked to let us know of any conflicts. In many instances on the draft dates, we offered several dates for each meeting, and now it's been narrowed down to specific dates. So please be sure to update your calendar. I'd ask for a motion to approve the 2014-15 Board of Trustee meetings dates as approved.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I had asked, I don't get much response, but I'd ask about moving the location of the June meeting to Galway, Ireland, because that's where I'm going to be that day. And
Let's go.
I'll second that.
Madam President, do you have it in your budget?
Mr. Chair, I do not have that in my budget, I'm afraid.
Mr. Chair, no, she does not.
Thank you, Susan. I'm sorry, Bob, but you'll have to phone in. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, may I add something about the calendar issue? The Board of Governors has, it concerns our work plan, which is we're putting together for the next meeting. The Board of Governors has just announced at the last meeting that they will not accept any university's work plan prior to approval by the Board of Trustees. And they need it, Dottie, what is at any rate?
May 16th.
The due date is May 16th. So we will need to ask you and the trustees to call a conference call, one topic item, to approve our university work plan so we can submit it with your approval. We were thinking about doing it on committee meeting day, but that's, which is...
May 23rd.
That's too late.
It's too late.
Okay, never mind.
We'll wait for the call.
Mhm.
Thank you. It's now time for our informational items, and I'd like to call on Susan Shaw. Susan Shaw is not here. We'll move on to the next item, and we'll get the report from Ms. Shaw when she returns.
There she is.
There she is.
There she is.
Sorry, I was just taking care of the press, introducing them to the football coach.
Not a problem. We'll wait all day to hear from the leader of our Emerald Coast class.
Thank you. I'm so proud that y'all are all here today. It's such a nice sunny day. I ordered that for y'all special.
Thank you.
What I want to talk to you about is just kind of give you a little bit of update of what's going on. Our classes are full, and in a year we have not had to cancel one class because of the fact of low enrollment. Yay. Our programs are going very strong. We have 8 programs that we offer in full that you can get every single one of your classes here and not travel to Pensacola. There was one tiny hiccup with accounting, and that was that the accounting classes are pretty tough, and we have them in sequence. And if you miss the sequence, it's a problem, or if you don't pass a class, or you don't make a C or better, or you drop the class, you get out of sequence, so it throws everyone off. And then they end up traveling to Pensacola. We solved that, we think. We hired a tutor, an accounting tutor, and she's here. We paid for it out of our Emerald Coast funds, and she's here, and she's been doing tutoring for accounting for over 10 years, and the students love her. So I think we've solved the little glitch. So all 8 programs are up and full and running. We have 3 graduate programs, which is the MBA, the Masters in Social Work, and also our EDD program is also offered here as well. One of the things that we want to do here on the Emerald Coast when we bring students here is we want to ensure they can finish here. 90%, after surveying our students, 90% of our students come here, over 90%, come here just to finish their degrees and go into career fields that they can make a living and be a part of our community and enhance the community as well. So we've been working on developing a new campaign for the Emerald Coast, and pretty much the tag is Finish Here. And we want to uphold that promise to the students, and that promise is done with honesty and respect for the student and compassion, because we have a lot of students that have a lot of things going on in their lives. So the best way to kind of demonstrate to you exactly what's happening on the Emerald Coast is to show you our product. So I'm going to pull up our first alum, and that's Elise Gerard, and she is, as you can see, a deputy sheriff. She graduated in 2008. Some of the things you need to know about Elise is the Quest has their bios, but I'm going to tell you kind of the Paul Harvey rest of the story. She is on what you would consider the SWAT team, but it's called the Special Response Team here, and she was the very first woman to make that team. She's a very big honor. She's also on the dive team as well. When I did the photo shoot with Elise, we sat down to go over her bio, and one of the things she told me is that her father, of very limited means, had done a Florida prepaid for all his children. And she wanted to honor him because she's the only one that's finished her degree out of all his kids. So that was very special. Next up is Yari, and as you can see, she's an interdisciplinary social science major, and she's a child protective investigator. I went to Crestview to do Yari's photo shoot, very busy office. I actually sit on the advisory committee for children in crisis, so I know a lot about foster children and how they're placed. And Yari is a wonderful example. What you do know, she'd been to 5 different colleges before she got to us because she's a military spouse. She wanted a degree program that she could carry with her and make sure that she goes forward when she moves again, that she can carry that career field with her, and that's one of the ones you can definitely do that with. Next up is J.P. Roberts. You can probably tell just by the look on his face, he's in hospitality. The mayor of Destin, actually the former mayor of Destin, she just stepped down. Sam Severs calls him Mr. Hospitality. He actually started at the Emerald Grand working there, and he completed his degree with us. And then he was summoned to Tallahassee to be the general manager for Hotel Duval, which is one of the prestigious properties in Tallahassee. And recently he was pulled back, thank goodness, to be the assistant general manager at the Emerald Grand. We run a lot of interns through there, and he's a great mentor for our interns. So that's JP. Next up is Andrea Archer. Andrea Archer is, of course, a business major, a management major. She was actually one of my students. And she has a wonderful job at Eglin as a civil servant. It's one of the coveted positions here in business. It's a very high-paying job, lots of future. She's also what we call Palace Acquire. She'll be paid to get her master's, which she's already in our master's program. So, and Andrea had 3 children when she came to us and a 4th on the way. She's was a military wife as well, and also an active duty. She spent 4 years in the Air Force. She was able to finish her degree here. And so when I did the photo shoot with Andrea, unfortunately, she informed me that she was recently, well, she's not married anymore. And I thought, I'd served many years on the board of Shelter House, and I can tell you this, that education is the ticket out of a bad situation. And it's really fortunate that we were able to be here and be able to offer her that degree program, and she could get it right here on the Emerald Coast so she can go forward with her life. And last, but certainly not least, is Elizabeth Burns. Best story on Elizabeth is Elizabeth dropped out of high school as a sophomore, okay? She worked in the restaurant industry and decided to go back to school. She had to get her GED. She had to take remedial courses. She had to get her AA degree, and she came to us. Last year, Elizabeth was voted by the faculty as the Outstanding Accounting Student of the Year. She came to me, she's also one of my students, she came to me and she said, I really, really want to intern for Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. I have my heart set on it, but all their internships are set up in Pensacola. I happen to be sitting on an advisory board with Steve Riggs. And I asked Steve, I said, will you do me a favor? Would you look at her resume? Would you think about giving her an internship for this summer? He said, okay. He said, so next thing, interviewed Elizabeth. And about 2 weeks into her internship, I get a call from Steve. No, I didn't. I got an email. I got an email from Steve, and he said, Susan, he said, you did not do me, I did not do you the favor. You did me the favor. She now works for Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. And when I did the photo shoot with Elizabeth, we actually did it in the lobby, and we were setting up everything. And one of the new partners for Carr, Riggs got off the elevator. It had been one of my former students from 20 years ago, and she's now a partner. And it's nice to think that one day Elizabeth will be right in her footsteps. And last but not least, I'd like to give you, Becky, you want to click it one more time? There you go. Last but not least, I need to give you, everyone ask about the update, about the bear.
Oh, yeah.
We have a spot for that bear in criminal justice. So just to let you know.
Okay. The bear, unfortunately, has finished here because we changed our trash receptacles, which we can no longer get into. It's very difficult. You have to do 2 hands with your trash in your hand and open it. But at least we took care of it. In fact, the Game Commission told us recently we did an awesome job of getting rid of the bears, because that's how, the bear has graduated and moved on to other garbage cans somewhere else. He's going to grad school somewhere else. So that's pretty much my update. I want to keep it short and sweet. But again, thank y'all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, we're proud of you and what you've done down here and what you continue to do.
Yes, stepped up.
One of the great challenges for us is not just getting our students through school in a certain period of time, but getting them employed. And so congratulations for the great job that you're doing. Thank you. Don't talk about the bears. Some of us are sensitive. I'd now like to call on Dr. Benz to give us a Board of Governors performance funding metric report.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. And I am going to give you, I'm going to drill down a little bit on the metrics and performance funding issues and tell you the latest and some of the story behind the story. The second slide will show you the BOG metrics plan. And this is if it's implemented as they proposed it. And their plan is that universities earning 26 or more points will be eligible for new funds. Those earning less than 26 points would not be eligible and lose up to 1% of their base. And I'll keep this information up to, so if we could have the next slide. Since the Board of Governors came out with that in January, there have been 2 additional plans. The House has come up with a plan and the Senate has come up with a plan. They all have different money. They all use the same metrics. They haven't been focusing on the definitions. They've been focusing on the distribution of money and how much. The Board of Governors has the 10 metrics, and you'll see them again. The 6-year, well, you know what they are. The House keeps the same metrics, but up until yesterday, they gave FSU and UWF double the point value. That has been taken out. They will no longer have double the point value. New College has been given 2 new metrics because it is different. And they are, for example, how many Fulbright scholars do they have, and things of that nature, because they are academically very good and that meet their mission. All the other universities are subject to the BOG proposed metric, and the Senate uses the Board of Governors metrics. Now let's get to the money. The Board of Governors has proposed $50 million of new recurring money. And they proposed $50 million from our university base. And proportionately, that's $675,000 to us, right? Right.
The 1%.
Yes, the 1%. Now, the House put up $45 million of recurring funding, general revenue, but they did not take anything from our base. They proposed to have $30 million. They do. $30 million from our base funding and $15 million from the gap funding, which is recurring, which we got, which they gave away this year. The difference in that, if you look down, is that there are no losers. Nobody loses money in the House version. All right? In the Senate version, they upped the ante. They upped it to $100 million from lottery money, which we consider non-recurring because it varies every year. Then the recurring funding is $100 million from a university base. So we've got $200 million there. Kim, this slide says $100 million non-recurring. Is that right?
Yes, that's how they've listed it so far.
That's crazy. All right, so anyway, that's the way it is. It's all non-recurring money. In the Senate plan. The results, the process is that in the Board of Governors, there will be winners and losers, and the skin in the game is our base, but it has a floor. For the first year, you can't lose more than 1% of your base. The second year, you can't lose more than 2%, and the third year, 3%. I have heard that each year the university's base will be restored. We don't quite know what that means, but the Board of Governors has said it. We'll lose 1%, for example, but next year in 14-15, our budget will be restored to what it is today. So it will be a non-recurring cut to our bases. That's a little inconsistent, but I like it. That means that the legislature will have to restore that cut every year. So it will cost the legislature more general revenue, but that is their plan. That was a surprise that came out after they developed their plan. The House has no losers.
So is
But
the rationale on that is that each year you need to prove yourself from that original base? So maybe if you lost 1% this year, next year you'd start where you would have normally this year, maybe gain some, maybe lose 2%.
I think the way it's proposed is that
Whatever
they
the
take
base is.
1% this year, they put it back at your base next year, but then take 2%.
So, but each
They
year's
restore, yeah,
If you stayed under 26
and,
points.
Right.
and then the end of the second year, they put it back to its level, the prior year level, and take 3%. It's a punitive program any way you look at it.
But that's why the Senate's proposal is showing non-recurring at present time. But the Chancellor said on the call with the trustees that they would like to make the money recurring, but you can't do it both ways. So that's why President Benz is saying it's a little bit inconsistent right now. We have a long way to go still.
Well, we do. Under the House plan, where there are no losers, there are 3 no gainers. The bottom 3 will not get any money. The top 8 will. All right, but no one loses any money according to the House. In the Senate, there is no bottom. There are winners and losers. There's skin in the game, and there's no minimum floor. Obviously, we're like the House version best. That is, we have 6.5 weeks to go, and it's a long time. You know, we like things to come out early, but those of you that understand the legislative process, that means there's a lot of time to tweak it and it to get worse as well as better, for items within the plans to become trading issues, and but it is what it is. And Janice and I and Chair Bear and everyone else is on it. Next slide, please. One of the things that I want to talk to you now about is our scores. This is what we got and how we scored. We got 5 points on adult degree completion, and we got 5 points on university access. I hear that the percentage is based on Pell Grants. I hear that is being raised by the BOG. It's not official yet, but they lowered, anyway, we got 5 points on each of those. The next is the full-time number, the second metric. We got 3 points for our annual, wages 1 year out, for our graduates 1 year out of graduation. We were surprised at that, and pleasantly surprised for a change, and so that's a good thing. They do measure it against the average wage in Florida as opposed to regionally. We're trying to get that definition to regional, and if so, we'll gain a point or so. But we did pretty well. On several others, we got 2 points, but on 3, we got 0. The cost of degree, the retention rate, and 6-year graduation rate. So what I want to tell you is kind of what we've done. I want to hold on this slide a bit. The first thing we did is Provost Saunders and I locked ourselves in my office, and we looked at every single one of these metrics and put them up on the board and developed at least the beginnings of conceptual plan for how to address the metrics that we need to improve and what, in our opinion, would be the priority order. And so then we called the rest of the vice presidents together, locked the door, and said, we are going to figure our way out of this. And we have. We have a plan for each metric except the 2 that we got 5s on. And another aspect is we put a vice president's name next to each of those metrics. So I can tell you that Vice President Brown is in charge of number 2, raising the metric of full-time BA graduates in Florida 1 year after graduation. That Vice President Provost Saunders and Bailey are in charge of number 1, graduates employed 12 months after graduation. And so on. Dr. Bailey is in charge of number 5, which is retention. Dr. Stevenson is in charge of number 3, the cost of a degree. We think we can report more, what's your word? Critically, no,
We're
more
gonna do
specifically.
a fine-tune
Fine-tune
our
it.
accounting practice.
That's right. And I'm here to say that Provost Saunders is in charge of the rest. Right. And she knows it. She accepted it willingly. We're good. But I also want to say that there are some related initiatives. One is that will help us move several metrics. One is career planning, and another is class attendance. And Provost Saunders is in charge of those two, but they reach across the university. We also identified 3 other initiatives that we need to work on and vice presidents are in charge of. Messaging, the PR. How do we get it out? What do we say about it? Legislation, reports to Vice President Brown, and budget reduction strategy in case the sky falls or any other steps in between the sky falling. How are we going to handle the money? And so we have put our shoulders to the wheel, and they get it. So I want you to know that your vice presidents have skin in the game. Now, let's go to the next slide.
President Bentz, might I also add that in the presentation that President Bentz gave to the Board of Governors last week, I was at home, I was watching on the webcast, but she did say that she would be dead if we did not improve the metrics, as would all the vice presidents. So,
well, I did say if we don't improve them, we're going to die trying. And if we weren't around next year, it was because we couldn't move them and we died trying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can I just ask an elementary question?
Of course.
The way that the metrics are set up currently.
Yes.
Is there any way that UF or FSU can drop to the bottom 3?
No.
So it's kind of, well.
I would think no, Pam, but everybody was surprised that FSU was number 5. They were very upset at that. That's why the once proposed double the points for the 2 flagships came out. It was really to ensure that they preeminence funding continued. I really don't think that they will fall farther than 5, but you don't know. For example, their graduates are from all over the country, and they go back home. They also get even Floridians who graduate from UWF and FSU. A lot of them get jobs outside the state, Atlanta, New York, San Francisco, all over the country. I think they'll always be poor in those kind of metrics, or low. Yeah, it's interesting. FSU didn't like it one bit. I will say that the 3 metropolitan universities, FIU in Miami, University of Central Florida in Orlando, and USF in Tampa, were infuriated at that because they all were better in these metrics than FSU. And their goal was to get the double the points out. And if we were representing one of those universities, I would feel the same way. Right. For a while, there was discussion that University of Florida and FSU would be taken out of the Board of Governors metrics because they will always be strong, and it weakened our chances for the remaining 9 of us. But the answer to your question is probably not. They'll probably always be pretty high. I think U of F will always be number 1. They just get the academically elite, and they just do great. Okay.
When you stack the odds in your favor.
Yes, I did.
You should expect nothing.
That's right.
Nothing different.
That's right. The real epitome of it was access. The lowest percentage of access in the state of all of the universities was 20%. And so that's where they started in the metric, was at 20%, and went up. And so everybody got 5 points on it. And that's, I hear they're going to raise that. So, but you're right. That was the absolute epitome of stacking metrics for the flagships. We've had long discussions about peer institutions that we want to be benchmarked against our peers. Thank you very much. We don't want to be benchmarked against the other universities. That is not doing well at all. They think we've cherry-picked our peers. They shouldn't be out of state, and we should be compared to other universities in our state, period. The Board of Governors has a strategic plan for the state university system, and we all need to move towards it. And I think they're going to stick to that. Now, let's go to what we are doing here to raise our metrics. The two that we focused on are retention and graduation rates. As Provost Saunders and I looked at, and Vice President Stevenson, we looked at when could we change, when would the improvement in the metrics change our funding. First of all, they're using data 2 years back. So, for example, on graduation rate, they're using the 2007-8 cohort for the 6-year graduation rate. So the only one we can affect is the 2006. But we can't affect it this year. We can only affect it next year in 14-15, which means it won't affect the budget until 15-16. So we had a column in our working table of when will improvement take financial effect. There's only one that will take effect next year, this next budget, 14-15 budget, 15-16 budget. And that is retention rate. Our retention rate is 63%, and we got a 0, and that's going into this coming year's budget. But if we improve retention, we can affect the next budget, which is 15-16. So that's number one. If we improve graduation rate, that will affect the 15-16 budget. So there are two metrics, we call them our sweet spots, in which we can improve and get the money the quickest. So that's why we have focused on retention and graduation rates. We suspected, and I'm less suspectful now that we could tweak the definitions, but regardless of what scheme is put out, we need to improve our retention and our 6-year graduation rate as an institution. So here we go. Let's talk about input. The students who we let in the door, the freshmen in particular that we let in the door, are determining our fate. What happens to them and what they do determines our fate on several metrics. These are the students that we have been let in the door. The one thing that correlates with our drop in retention rate is SAT scores. That's the blue line. You can see that they've been dropping the last 2 years. We were low at 995 SAT, which is terrible. And we have a 61% now. There are two retention figures. Look at the table below the graph. The retention is calculated by the Board of Governors as those students, full-time freshmen, who come back as full-time sophomores, and they have a grade point average of 2.0 or better. All right? We've been calculating if they come back, period. So you've been seeing 71% instead of 63%. You've been seeing 74% in your KPIs instead of 69%. So that definition of 2.0 or better has caused our numbers to look lower than what we have been sharing with you since we've been doing KPIs. So you got that? All right. So the green line, percent retained with a 2.0 or higher, is what runs through and below the blue columns. But the one thing that correlates is SAT scores, and you can see they rise and they fall. Now, there are some exceptions, but in general, Dr. Gaiman says that there is a correlation. Grade point average doesn't, and ACT doesn't. It's all over the place, right? All right. So that is what we are kind of focusing on. So let's look at the next slide. Who's in the door? One of the terms that Dr. Gaiman and her staff and colleagues use is yield. Yield is how many students out of all of the students that have been applied, that have been accepted, admitted, that have been accepted and admitted, actually enroll. And you can see in these columns that in general, the academic scores of the students from left to right are from great in column 1 to bad in column 5. All right? These are the columns that we have been, the tallest columns that have the most students who have applied and been admitted to us are not great. They're in the middle or below. The fourth column from the left are those that don't do well. The fifth column, they do terrible. So, in short, we are, she is, concentrating our recruitment on the first 3 columns. We should have a bell curve, and column number 3 should be the tallest, and so on. So where you see goals up above the chart, where it says goal 00, let's go. Nobody set goals for this year. You know, we will have goals for next year, and you'll see that. But the point of this is this is out of whack, and that's one of the reasons why we have bad retention. We've been letting students in and recruiting students that have poor academic futures. So we're going to concentrate on recruiting the students who who graduate, who finish, who keep a good grade on average. Trustee Walton, you have a question?
Yeah, when you're looking at the SAT and
Right.
the correlation and whatnot like that,
Mhm.
you're doing that at UWF.
Yes.
Is there any state system-wide analysis of that? Can you get numbers from other universities, or is that just unique to UWF, or do you think that's?
I don't know, Dr. Gamer, what do you say? I don't know is my answer, but people in the room do, or Dr. Minear, she might know.
The College Board typically does a national analysis. They do not pull in retention, so the first thing that comes to mind might be the SUS system. They do look at test scores, and it's in the KPI, so there might be a correlation, some data that points to that. But going back to this chart, I think the biggest thing to pay attention to is that our test scores have fluctuated, and as Dr. Benz alluded, have decreased and have been in correlation with retention, and I think that's pretty standard for a lot of institutions. When institutions admit and enroll students that aren't necessarily prepared, they are more at risk. And so the challenge has been that we haven't really necessarily had a lot of programs specifically in place to target those at-risk students week 1 when they enroll.
I guess my question is I'm not doubting the correlation of the SAT and what you're doing here, not at all. But to what extent is Board of Governors, the SUS system, available to help review your analysis in direction?
Okay.
It's performance funding. They want results. They ought to be helping all 11 universities inch up on all categories. Is that available?
Is Dottie here? Are you aware if that's available?
Data actually exists in the state university data system. If we're talking about doing correlation on a student-by-student basis, it would have to be done at...
Dottie, would you mind coming to the speaker? The microphone, thank you.
The data exists within a state university system database. If we're talking about doing correlation at the student level, it would have to be done in Tallahassee. The data aren't available for us to be able to access it directly, but we certainly could put in a request to try to capture that if that were important to the university.
And again, then I'll be quiet. It's not so much this particular analysis of the SAT and retention. But if, and maybe wisely so, we all seem conceptually to agree with that. If the performance funding is intended to motivate the 11 state universities into moving forward in certain directions, they should not just come up with here's the criteria. But I would suspect they ought to also be able to support efforts and initiatives to help individual universities move to upgrade. Because my understanding, if everybody got a 26, nobody's going to lose money.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's get everybody to 26. Let's get everybody to a 50.
Right.
Somebody somewhere ought to be helping you do that so that, I'm not saying that you want their help, but, or that you got to take it, but so that somebody doesn't go off on a tangent and do some analysis at some other university and it turns out it's being wrong analysis. There ought to be something that there should be some support or resources available to help. I'm not talking about money, but there ought to be something the state universities support. It's not just setting the standard and say, you got to do better.
Well, that's what they're saying right now, but we can reach out to the Board of Governors. But they're short-staffed, overworked, but there is no plan for improvement.
Don't give us that junk, Board of Governors. Come on. Okay?
I know.
You put it out here. We want everybody to move forward. Now, what are you going to do? Can you do some things to help us move forward?
Trustee Walton, they asked every president to present at their Board of Governors meeting last week, and that may be the line of thinking that, that they're thinking that once they know what we need or what we're trying to do at our institutions, perhaps they will be able to assist us.
I would hope somebody, in addition to each individual university, would help all 11 universities advance the performance funding concept. I would hope that would be there.
One of the additional suggestions that we had is rather than taking money from the universities that score less than 26, would be to actually hold that money at the BOG and allow each university to come up with an improvement plan and reinvest that money back into the university so they can improve their metrics.
However they want to massage it. I'm not, it's just not one of these deals where you come along and say, here's where you got to go. You got to improve in these metrics. And then close the door.
Right.
Don't talk to you. Okay? They need to step forward too.
All right, now, the rich get, under this plan, basically the rich get richer and the poor get poorer.
Trustee O'Sullivan.
Could you go to the next slide?
Yes.
I need a few questions answered on trying to understand it. On the bottom, it says CI. 90 and above, 84, and so forth. What does CI stand for?
This graph represents tiers, and so the way that you have to look at it is the first column represents tier 1, and how you define a tier is looking at and calculating a score, and it includes the test scores multiplied by the GPA. And so this analysis was actually done by our consultant, Noah Levitz, and the way that they like to do the analysis is in tiers. So tier 1 is 90 to above, and then tier 2 would be 80 to 89, and so on and so forth, if that makes sense.
Do you know what the letters C and I stand for?
It's just category.
It's calculated index.
It is. It's category 1, category 2, category 3, and or tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
It's an index. Calculated index is what CI stands for.
Calculated index?
Index, and it's the grade point average times the SAT score, right?
Correct.
Right.
So the highest would be 100.
I don't want to hold us up here today, but if you could circulate to the board the consultant's report and some explanations on how to understand this, I'd like to digest that on my own time.
Okay, be happy to do that.
Thank you. So, in general, what we need to do is change the shape of the curve to a bell-shaped curve instead of one that is skewed towards students that have lower academic credentials and scores. And that is what we are doing right now. For example, our SAT score that we are having now for the class of 2014 is 1,074. If you'll back up a slide, Becky. And you can see that it is back up to well above the highest level that we have in 2008. So we're on the right track. I think we will, the freshman class we are recruiting and admitting right now have a much higher potential for academic success, staying till they're sophomores with a GPA of 2.0.
Madam President, is that improvement in SAT scores coming at the expense of fewer admissions?
No, no. Joffrey? Sorry. This is on the radar big time, and she's great.
So the improvement in test scores has just been as a result of strategically going after the right students.
Good stuff.
So we started off at the very beginning by identifying our prospect pool, our purchase names of stronger students, and then we have been cultivating the applicant pool, been doing a lot of events that add value and really develop that relationship with prospective students that have been missing. So what we're finding is that we are increasing our numbers in Jacksonville and Orlando, as well as the local area market for students that wouldn't have ever really considered UWF, but are seriously interested in enrolling this year.
So you are starting out with a pool of prospects that have higher academic credentials. Right.
And the anticipation is the yield will remain
Yeah.
steady.
That's right. We don't anticipate a drop in enrollment. We don't.
Madam President?
Yes.
We're not anticipating a drop in enrollment, and I can see that, but we're also anticipating an increase in enrollment when we start football and football down the road. So basically, we're trying to make the pyramid strong before that happens.
Yes. Provost Saunders, you might want to address the aspect of growing the other areas of our student body enrollment that aren't concerned with retention.
Well, I'll remind the board that retention, the retention figures are a cohort, a very narrowly defined cohort of our student body. They are our first time in college, first time full-time students. There are a lot of other students who come to us from a lot of other different entry points, transfer students, and so one of the ways we're looking to balance all of this is to make sure that if there is a reduction in first-time students, that we compensate with transfer students. So we're meeting the metric, and we're making sure that we strengthen the metric so that we get the money we need from the BOG, but also that our enrollment stays high. So those are two strategies that we're working on.
Yeah, one example is you just had an orientation, but an open house for transfer.
We had our first open house for transfer students. Ever. And they came from lots of places.
Potential transfers?
Yeah, potential transfers.
And they have a very good graduation rate, and they are good students. So I thought that was a great idea. It was a packed house. Yeah.
And I don't know if through the remarks last week, but the more you look at the definitions, to me, the definition that they use to define, to come up with these metrics, to me is an old school way of looking at a student. I mean, today to think that the student is a first-time freshman who's going to show up, having graduated from high school, and mom and dad are going to take them off to school and drop them off at the dormitory, and life is going to begin, their college life begins. I just don't understand how that can be the definition of what the Florida system thinks students are that we're going to measure against. I certainly know in my travels, and I've been to every major university. I just came back from Tempe, Arizona, lecturing at the law school at the Sandra Day O'Connor Law School this week, looking at their students. Tempe and Phoenix is, very urban area now, very high Hispanic population, and they're struggling on how to retain those students, get them ready to be the good citizens they want to see in the state of Arizona in the future. And so I struggle with understanding how do you write a metric around a student that, yes, I agree, there are still students who graduate from high school, mom and dad are going to take them off for their 4-year education, drop them off at the door, and goodness gracious, we hope they make it through to graduation. But I don't see that as the definition of probably 75% of the students that we expect to serve certainly in this university or in this state. So it's sort of, my struggle as a trustee is that how do you engage in a conversation with the Board of Governors that helps them expand their understanding of just who it is they're so concerned with. When I see that young man who spoke to us today, I said to Kim, he needs to go speak to the Board of Governors. He would be telling them what it's like to be a student today in Florida. highly energized, articulate, and talked all about work. He wants to go to work, and he said how much he loved having a strong work ethic. I'm struggling with how who advised them? I mean, they didn't do this in a closed room, but the advice they got that said, this is the kind of student, this sort of profile that they've decided to build a metric around. So that's probably my struggle with how do we, because UWF is probably never going to be able to grow that cohort significantly. And as a board member, I would say that's because we shouldn't be targeting the people that need our help. Certainly aren't necessarily that profile.
I would say to you that when the Board of Governors designed their metrics, they did not look at individual universities and their individual profiles. They looked at universities in general and have no interest in giving any special consideration to regional comprehensive universities. And so we find a lot of the regional universities in the same boat that we're in. And let me remind those who were on the telephone call with the chancellor, when asked the question whether these metrics were written in stone and whether that minimum, if you overcame the minimum number, could we count on being above that number from then on and being safe? And he was quick to reply that that number can be moved up because they expect some failures.
Bad answer.
You know, like any other effort at doing performance-based metrics, part of the weakness comes in to what data is available. I suspect they fell to FTIC as a measure of retention because that's the only piece of data they have. To try and measure retention of transfer students coming in, and they don't know how to zero in on that. So as a matter of simplicity, they fall back on FTIC, whether or not that's the right measure. So,
well, but they also give no consideration to the fact that the University of Florida is down in the middle of the state, and the University of West Florida is 12 miles from the Alabama line, and their interest in graduating students getting jobs is that they want people who live in Florida to have income to pay taxes and so forth, with no consideration to the fact that a lot of people who live in West Florida live in West Florida but work across the state line in Alabama, but they bring their paychecks home, and we get no credit for those people.
I agree with you, but I think that may also be a matter of expediency, that they don't know how to track those people that are out of state.
Well, they don't want to track them.
They don't want to track them, but I don't think they can either.
Oh, yeah, you can. Sure, you can track them. If they live in Florida, you can track them easily. If they live out of Florida, there is a method for tracking those students. I mean, if they work, then they get a W-2s. So, I mean, whether the state of Florida and the Board of Governors wants to try to work with the Treasury Department of the United States probably remains a challenge. But there is information available on every person who has a job.
Mm-hmm. The National Clearinghouse, there's an organization called that, which we belong to, which tracks our students. You can pay for that information. You get less personal information, like how much did they make, but you can say where they are and what they're doing. So there are ways to do it. One of the things the presidents talk a lot about is, in the definition of graduation rate, is how many of our students actually get a degree that came in any given year, regardless of where they got the degree. And when we all make those runs, the number's in the 80s. But they'll take they'll go to 2 different universities, 3 different universities, in-state, out-of-state. They actually get a degree. They just don't get it from where they started, which is the old school definition that Trustee Lewis is talking about. And we have kind of respectfully requested that isn't the goal of all of our, for all of our students, is for them to get a degree from us or from somewhere else. And they fall back on FTIC, on the freshmen. We really would like to get that metric changed and modified, and we won't stop trying. We're giving them our numbers of even if they graduated from an SUS, a state university system school, the number is higher. Much less any university, any college, anywhere. Yeah, I think it's essentially unfair. But that it is what it is, and we are going to have to work on it, and I think our freshmen should finish, should be retained, and they should graduate in 6 years. But there are other numbers that are more revealing of the current situation in the world. And going to our transfer students and try to increase that is a great idea. So we're just going to keep on working on that. All right, let's go to the next one. I want to tell you, talk a little bit about programs that have West Florida have the highest retention rate. The blue line is their grade point average of the blue column, and the green column is their retention rate. And you can see that the students that are in marine biology, pre-electrical engineering, computer science, STEM fields, these are freshmen, they have the highest retention rate and they are the most motivated. All right? And but this is just another slice of what may impact retention. So let's go to the next slide. This is another way to slice and dice our retention rate, is by the kind of aid that they get. And let's look at the first column, students who need help. These are the freshmen. You'll see that the lowest retention are the freshmen who don't live at home, who don't live on campus, who are in an apartment and free at last. And so they have only a 55.8% retention rate. So which is why housing with Dr. Davidson, we are encouraging students to live, freshmen, to live on campus or to live with their parents or relatives. We also see that females have a higher retention rate than males. And I will tell you, we had a study done on retention by gender and race and ethnicity. And if you want the best retention rate on the planet, you need female Asians. Okay? And I'm not going to go over that study, and you need women, not men. Now, let's look at the next column. No need for, that means they didn't need any aid, and they got academic scholarships. You can see there's the same issue with those freshmen, that the worst of them is living off campus in an apartment free at last. And then in residence halls it's 83, and living with parents it's 75. It's good. Then that we come to the, they don't need any money. They don't need any money. Parents or whoever is picking up the tab. And you can see that the numbers of living with parents and relatives is 77, off campus is 71, and then the worst are males are worse than females, and in the residence halls they're having a good time.
Just by a little bit, Judy.
Yeah. Yeah, just by a little bit. That's right. That's right. So this is how Dr. Gaiman has sliced and diced this in financial aid for retention. So you can see where we should focus financial aid and how we should direct students to them on what to do. And the next thing, improving retention. This slide shows that our retention rate for 2012, 2013, the green one, was 63%. To maintain that 63%, we have to retain 829 students out of our cohort. This year is 1,316. Okay? That's how many full-time freshmen entered in the fall, and we need to keep 829 of them to come back next fall with a 2.0. But in order to increase it by 1 point, you get improvement points, you only need to add 13. To improve it by 2 points, you only need to add 26. These are little numbers. Okay, so the point of this slide is we could get 5 points, which is the maximum you could get, which would lift us up to 26 if we retain 66 more students next fall that have a 2.0 or better. All right, so the laser begins to get narrow. So that's how we're going to improve it. That's right, you do the math. Divide that into, yeah. No, we do go there. So, now, what are we going to do? First of all, what have we done? We've formed a retention response team. It meets regularly to go over all the issues and keep up to date that we're doing on retention. The next thing is the calling campaign. The students that are at risk, the freshmen who came in the fall are here in the spring. Those that made a 1.5 to 2.0 in the fall, okay? They're at risk for not having a 2.0. They get 1D, they're in trouble. They're not going to count for us in the spring, even if they come back. All right, so those are our at-risk students. They're being called. There are 251 of them. We've called them. We've contacted 85 so far. And this is to ensure that they progress academically. We're asking them, are you doing okay? How are your grades in your courses this time? How's your money? How's your stress? How's your family? How are you doing? Do you need anything? So we're directing them, if they have needs, to the right people in the right places. So we're calling them on the phone. Now try to get the student's cell phone number. Obviously, we haven't been collecting it. And obviously, we need to do that next year, and we are. When they go to orientation, they're going to put their cell phone number in there. A lot of times we wind up calling their parents by accident, because that's the number. And the parents go, my goodness, they're having trouble. Sure, here's their cell phone number. So parents are happy to give us their students' cell phone numbers. So we're getting in contact with them. The second thing is there are 56 of these students with a 2.0 or higher, and that did not return in the spring. All right? They didn't return. We had a good retention rate, 91%, but 119 didn't show back up. So we've called them. And we have said with a 2.0, and we've said the same thing. We want you back. We want you back, because one of the little definition nuances for retention is a student can enter in the fall, drop out in the spring, and come back in the fall. They count. They count if they have a 2.0. So, all those 219 are getting a call, the I Want You Back campaign. Then the financial aid strategy, we just talked about that. And we have re-enrollment counselors. Re-enrollment counselors. Of those that did not come back, 7 are now in the process of re-enrolling. So, we're making progress, and we're doing that. The next thing is called Finish Strong. And that means make good grades. Don't cave in at the end of the semester. That is, we're having parent video, letters, and next Monday I'm having lunch with students, a presidential lunch on the book Finish Strong, and we're going to talk about it because the freshman year is by far the most difficult year in a student's life. It certainly was for me. I almost blew it, but I didn't. I finished strong. And I had to say no to some things that I, being free at last, was doing. And many of us in this room went through that, but it is to help those students do that. The next one, Student Government Association.
Judy, one comment on that.
You bet.
Even if we have cell phone numbers for all the students, I would ask you to think about having the program include calling their parents anyway.
That's a good idea.
I think the parents would appreciate the communication from the school, and it's another source of pressure on those students. And the second thought is, I don't know how much dollars are involved.
They give us the number. Yep. legally
No?
We can't legally do it?
Well, you can't give information about a student to their parents. FERPA doesn't allow that. So you can't tell the parent how they're doing, but you can contact the parent and encourage them, which we have done, sending letters to the parents to encourage them to encourage their students, but you can't provide their academic record.
Interesting. Figure out something is all I would tell you.
Yeah.
Um,
Wordsmith it with general counsel?
Yeah. And the second thought is, you might do a math calculation. How much money do we avoid losing if we can reach the bar? What is that dollar amount? And a reasonable proportion of that money could be considered for investment in some sort of semi-mandatory counseling for these students. So that if we can put some of our resources into tutoring and more than we do today, and you get the results you want, then you'll get a 5 or 6-fold return on your money for your funding. So give some thought to that.
We have. Yes. SGA has a campaign called I Want You Back, and students are calling students, encouraging the freshmen, encouraging them to register early, stay in school. They have T-shirts, posters, and events are being planned around. Be sure to register, and that means retention. So they don't put it off. You can register up until the first week of classes, but that's first of all, you don't get the classes you want. Second of all, they might not do it, and third of all, we want them to sign up as early as possible. Another thing that we've been doing is early warning. For all the students, freshmen that are in classes, if they're making a D or worse, the professors are required to fill out a form and give them their names and what their grade is and the last time they attended class. And the students are contacted. First of all, 96.75% of the faculty are participating. It used to be atrocious. Now almost all the faculty do it that are teaching freshmen. And second of all, we're really pressuring them and following up to go get advising and see their academic advisor. And we had a record attendant advising. 88% of the students went to see academic advisors, and they have made a C or better in those courses. So it's really very effective. In housing, Dr. Davison has got a Knocks and Talks program where every door is knocked on of the freshmen, and they talk with the students about enrolling for the next semester and about persisting to graduation. So they've also sent emails, and so we've got those students as captive. Now, that's what we're doing. What are we going to do? One of the things that all of us, meaning leadership in academics, the provost and faculty senate, as well as administration, we are seriously considering soon for next year to require freshmen to attend class if they are for all the general studies courses as well as prerequisite classes. That is a first step to requiring all freshmen to attend all classes, but we're going to start with general studies and prereq courses. Also, each college has a different set of definitions for probation and suspension. Who would know? Well, they do, and we're going to make them consistent. I don't know the history. I don't really care. We just know that we need to have common definitions for that.
So you have requiring attendance for freshmen, but what is the alternative? Like, I mean, I'm assuming if you're going to college, you're attending class.
Oh, no, no. It's policies.
It involves policies that reward attendance and to present disincentives for not attending. Obviously, you can't force their bodies to be there, but the idea is to require and enforce consistent policies that will encourage.
They used to do roll call when I was in school. They don't do that anymore.
Oh,
I
no,
assume.
no. What most people do, Trustee Dana, is many professors do take roll. I took roll my entire time. I know that Dr. Kelly did too, his time in the classroom. And I always gave them a few free cuts. you're gonna have an accident, you're gonna oversleep or whatever, and if the course was worth 3 hours, I gave them 3 free cuts. After that, they were docked a letter in the course. So if they earned a B, they got a C. If they earned an A, they got a B. And I meant it. And they tested me, and I enforced it. And I got every excuse in the book. If their grandmother died, and that's why they weren't in class, I wanted to see the obit. Right. If they went to a doctor and they were sick, I wanted to see the doctors. So there are ways to enforce it. Yep. And I think we are moving in that direction. Yeah.
Madam President?
Yes.
If I may also add,
Please.
Trustee Dana, part of this also too is what I call the snitch factor. And so for the students who don't come to class, they'll get reported, if you will, and so some follow-up will go on. There is a system that is coming online tied with a banner called Grades First, which will allow us to do that snitching piece, if you will.
Right. Also now, let's talk about number 3, which is advising. Our advising load, as they divide up all of our students, is 280 students to each advisor. The preferred load is 300 to 1, so we're good, but it's uneven. In biology, it's terrible. It's 400 to 1. In programs that have lots of enrollment, they might have 10 or 15 faculty and maybe even a professional advisor, but they're all coming in at the same time. They all need advising, and one of the complaints is they can't get in to see their advisors. Now, for their freshman year, they have Dr. Westcott. He advises freshman advising, and his staff takes care of it, and they can do it. But once they're sophomores and they've declared a major, they have to go to the department. And so it begins to clog the department. And we are going to update that. And we have strategies by which to tackle that issue. Another one is updating our 4-year degree plans. A student needs to be able to be handed a piece of paper when they declare comm arts or biology or accounting as their major. This is what you have to take. This is when they're offered. Let's start checking off the boxes. And so many of them are out of date, and the provost and the enforcement team is going to make sure that they are updated right away. Another one is, who teaches our freshmen and sophomores? Who is it? Do you think it's mainline faculty, the full professors? 65% are taught by adjuncts. All right? Okay, so let's reach out and put our arms around the adjuncts. And we have several ideas to engage them in professional development and also to help us with retention. They have been grossly underpaid throughout the country, and here too, and we are thinking of a reward program and maybe a raise for them, and looking at all kinds of things that our CFO will let us do that said we have money to do, because nothing's free. But we are going to engage them more. They are what? They're not really engaged with the university. They aren't, or their departments, and we are going to fix that. Another one is that, as I mentioned earlier, the banner system, student information system is coming online, and the Tableau has been around, but it's easier to use, and that gives the deans and the chairs new data that they've never had before, such as knowing what FTICs they have in their class, who they are, and encouraging them so they know who they are, take a little time with them and see how they're doing, and help them in their classes. It's critical to moving our metrics forward.
Dr. Bentz, I have a question.
Yep.
Do we have a grade forgiveness or grade recovery program?
We do,
policy?
for one course.
You can do it one time?
One time, yes.
It might be something to look at.
Two? Is it two? Sorry.
I just pulled up USF, they allow 3. And there ought to be a level playing field if one of the parameters or metrics is GPA.
That's true.
And there's varying grade recovery policies across the system.
Right.
That would put them in a better...
Good catch. I didn't know USF did 3. These are policies we can set.
So probably makes sense. There's probably several things out there that we want to make sure we're on the same playing field.
Right. Yeah. And grade forgiveness means if you do poorly in a course, you take it again, and you can keep the better grade. Right. Now, let's go to the next slide.
Judy, one other comment.
Of course, Mort, sure.
I think the employers in our community could be a resource. We all have a vested interest that the university succeeds and provides great students for us. We should be able to understand the problem and maybe help in the solution. And perhaps these students who are at risk, if you scheduled a day, they're young, they're first year, they don't know what they're going to major in, but they might have an idea. If you called employers out to campus in the fall after the middle of the term and had sessions for the employers to talk to the students, that kind of discussion could serve as inspiration to turn them around.
Along that line, I'm involved with the Executive Mentor Program in the College of Business and enjoying it very much. But the thought occurred to me, I wish I met this young man.
They're not freshmen.
Sooner.
Right.
Right. And in his, he was actually into his senior year when I met him. Would love to have met him when he was a freshman or a sophomore. So if there's some facsimile of that mentor program that can be applied towards freshmen and sophomores on a university-wide basis, I think that could be very helpful.
Good. Even if they don't know what they're going to major in, Trustee O'Sullivan, they usually are leaning one way.
That's my point.
Either in the sciences, or in the social sciences, or in education, or in business.
I just think you need to be aware there's another resource, and it's the employer base.
What also helps with that, sort of that formula, get your degree and then what? Go to work.
Right.
And we're a community that wants to keep you here and keep you working.
Madam President?
Yes.
Trustee O'Sullivan, we are doing that. I'm getting a note from my Director of Career Services that activity you just described is going on across campus.
Good, so we've started.
We started, yes.
Good. Our retention, the last thing I want to tell you is that what we are doing is we are tracking our retention. This table here on your screens is we don't have any numbers in it yet, but we are going to fill these numbers out. Dr. Gaiman is going to fill them out every week. We will be given these so we know what's going on. One of the things about your vice presidents and the cabinet members is that we're often don't know what's going on down at the bottom. And I decided that by God, I wanted to know what was going on in retention and six-year graduation rate. And so the provost and I sat down and said, well, why don't we have them come to cabinet? Them, meaning the people who really are doing or overseeing the work. And so we are having the deans from academic affairs come to cabinet, at least one dean every week, having Dr. Gaiman come at least once a month, and I think I'm wanting it sooner, but at any rate, once a month, and reporting to cabinet on the progress, on the problems, what they need, their ideas, what they're working, where are the numbers now. And we just started we've had 2 cabinet meetings, and the discussions have been robust. New ideas have come out of it. The deans are happy to, and they talk, actually, the 3 academic deans, 2 of them were present at cabinet meeting on Monday, and we got some good ideas from them, and they from each other. So we're tracking this every single week, and I'm just not going to let it go. We need to know what's going on so that the decision makers can be there at the table to solve a problem, to enhance a program, or to stop something that's not working. Now, let's go to graduation rates, the other metric we think we can move. The graduation rate, the 6-year graduation rate figure that's going to come out next is for the full-time freshmen who entered in 2008, 6 years ago from 2014. And there were 1,099 freshmen in that cohort. Currently, we have 95 students on campus taking courses that entered in 2008. 95. So a couple of sophomores, 23 are juniors, and 70 are seniors. And so 516 of those 1,099 have graduated. So they're good. The others are 17 have attended last fall, but they didn't attend this spring. 152 attended last summer, but that's all. 319 haven't attended for over a year. So we've been drilling down on those students. 95 are taking courses now, but we know where the others are. And I want to tell you that if we can graduate 95 more of that cohort, we will get 5 points. We will go from 42% to 55%. So we are focusing on those students. We're calling them, we're asking them the question is, what do you need to graduate next year? Is it money? Are you having to work longer? As we look at our part-time student ratio to full-time student, freshmen only have a little bit of part-time. Sophomore, more of them are part-time. Junior, more of them are part-time. Senior, almost half of them are going part-time. Translation? They have to work. They don't want to accumulate any more debt. Look, I'll give them a couple $1,000s if that's what they need to get them from working 40 hours to 20 hours. If it's a course, do they need a directed study? Are they waiting on a course that are out of sequence? Let's offer that as a directed study, and we'll pay the professor to do it. So we are finding out what they need to graduate within 6 years, and we only need 95 to get 5 points. That's a total of 31 points for the next year. That will affect our 15-16 budget. So I am, we're working hard on that. The next slide. The provost has sent to the deans the list of those students that are 4th, 5th, and 6th-year seniors. The deans know who they are now. They've sent them down to the chairs. The chairs know who they are. And the chairs are having the professors talk to them, because every student has an advisor who's a faculty member, usually, not always. And so that's how the question is being asked. They're being called in or called up, and they're reaching out to them. We want to put every one of those students on a path to graduation. And we can do that. The number is small. So I think it's within our reach. So this is where we are. This is what we're doing. This is what we're planning on doing. I will tell you that all of the presidents, when we gave our presentations last week about what we're doing for improving the metrics, we got some ideas from each other. And one of them is excess hours, and I had no idea what some students are, what some universities are requiring of students. Our problem is if a student gets more than 120 hours, and the Board of Governors legislature want us to finish in 120 hours, they already have to pay more for their 121st and subsequent hours. All right, that's financial, but they're still graduating with excess hours. What they're doing is they're changing their majors. They're changing them every time you turn around. Well, at the University of South Florida, you can't change your major after a certain point.
A question related to that.
Yeah.
Is that discouraging minors, or is that accounted for some other way?
Minors are an issue, and at the University of South Florida, a student cannot add a minor in the last semester of their senior year. So you can add minors up to that point, but that means you'll have to stay longer. They can't add another major after they've had 96 hours, because that will cause them to take more courses. The people who know this are the registrars, and we're going to talk to our registrar real hard next week and say, get us a list of the restrictions, the policies that different universities have to combat excess hours. And it will be restricting student majors and minors, because that's causing a clog at the senior level. We have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and a lot of them are 5th and 6th and 7th year seniors. So it's a good thing we're finding this out.
One question.
Yeah.
If somebody starts at UWF and goes a year or two, takes their grade education, transfers to FSU, graduates from FSU on time, are they, A, going to help our metric, or worse yet, B, do they hurt our metric because they left us?
They hurt us. Hurt us. Yep, hurt us.
I think, thank you, Judy. I think one of the things that we as citizens in Florida, as well as business people and people who are looking for talented employees need to be concerned about are the unintended consequences of these metrics, where we start educating based on the metrics rather than training talented workforce. And it really concerns me that we follow the pattern of the public school system today that teaches FCAT testing rather than education. And so hopefully the state will at some point recognize those unintended consequences that could occur. Any other questions for Dr. Benz? Thank you, Judy.
You're very welcome. Sorry it went so long, but it is
It's important.
right
to
on
us.
top.
Oh. Our next report is on academic affairs, and I'd like to call on Dr. Saunders for an update.
Thank you. Chairman Bear asked me if I would give an update on academic affairs, and I said I'd be glad to, and what we've been doing the last year. And he said, but he didn't want a 30-minute dissertation on it, so I'm going to talk really fast about a lot of things. When people ask us in academic affairs, what's academic affairs, we quickly answer everything that matters, because it pretty much includes who gets in, who gets out, and what happens to them in between, as specifically with our academic programs. We've been spending a lot of time this year, as you know, on focusing on enrollment. We have a strong focus on stabilizing our enrollment. We've had some good assistance from consultants that are giving us the best advice, and I think we're going to benefit from that. We are refining our recruitment strategies, specifically for our FTICs, focusing on students who will come here and be successful. We are realigning our strategies now more recently with the BOG performance metrics, and we are reviewing our financial aid strategies to make sure we're slicing and dicing the money that we have and spending it on students who will be successful. And responsible for that is our new Assistant Vice President for Enrollment Affairs, Joffrey Gaiman, who has not been here even yet a year, but has made quite an imprint on the university. We also have been focusing a good bit on diversity. And we have come up with the first ever diversity plan, because it helps if you have a plan, for the recruitment of our students, faculty and staff, and community relationships. We have been informed, this plan has been informed by a campus climate survey. First step in working with diversity and improving diversity is make sure you have a receptive environment for diverse students, diverse faculty, and staff. And we've been very encouraged by the results of our campus climate survey. It showed that we are a receptive and welcoming environment. It did also give us places where we might want to focus. And Kim LaDuff, Dr. Kim LaDuff, has been here since October, and she is our Chief Diversity
The
Officer and
conference is
Associate
scheduled to be
Vice
broken
Provost.
down automatically in 15
And we
minutes.
set up our Equity, Diversity, and International Affairs Department. She is working closely with Dr. Gaiman on partnering the diversity efforts with our recruitment efforts as well. We've been spending a good bit of time on flexibility. One of the things that may not surprise this board is that universities don't move real fast. And when you think about it, we measure our progress in generations of students. That's 4 years, or in some cases 6 years. And so our traditional models don't always enable us to move as quickly and be as responsive as we can. So we have, in order to build more flexibility, we've done a year-long and very strong effort on college reorganization. The structure that we had was bulky. It needed more efficiency. It needed more balance. And we have also focused a great deal on academic innovation. Our colleges have not been well set up for interdisciplinary work. And that's where much of the funding is. So we've been trying to find ways out of the provost office where we can work together more quickly and more effectively. The existing structure of the colleges was developed back in the last century. This is circa 1999, and you'll see we have the College of Arts and Sciences, College of Business, and College of Professional Studies. We also have deans of general studies, deans of graduate school, and university libraries. And this structure has lost its usefulness. It was a good idea then, but we felt like it needed to be changed. So after a great deal of effort, and I brought you up to date at the last committee meeting, and under the leadership of Dean Dugan, we have come up with an additional college structure. And if you'll notice, there are 4 new additions. A College of Arts, Social Sciences, and Humanities, which is very much the core of the old arts and sciences. A new college of education, or a slightly refined college of education and professional studies, with some of their programs moved over to an additional college of science, engineering, and health. We have dean searches underway for those. We expect to have new deans named by July. You'll also see a structure called University College. This is not a degree granting college, but more of an accumulation of all of those programs that sustain and help students in their academic progress. I think this is going to be a game changer for us because the centerpiece of University College is professional readiness. We're putting a lot of emphasis on getting our students ready and finding ways to set them apart when they get into the workplace, and giving them those kinds of experiences that will make them better. Classroom experiences help. Good grades help. But what have they done that jumps off the page for a prospective employer? And so you'll be hearing a little bit more in my presentation about that. College of Business will remain the same. Graduate school, the same, and the university library is the same because they were just perfect already. But we're not quite done with this. As soon as we can, we will be adding a College of Health. We know that healthcare and all of the professional studies around that, real growing enterprise, very important in our community. And so as soon as we get the other done, we'll be focusing on adding the College of Health. We also, when we talk about how we're going to be more flexible and more innovative, we have created out of the Provost Office the University of West Florida's Innovation Institute. Dr. Pam Northrup is leading that. The mission of the Institute is very simple: to enrich our community, state, and region through academic partnerships. We are already involved in numerous partnerships. The National Flight Academy is one that is operating out of that. STEM immersive programming. We have developed the Cybersecurity Center out of the Innovation Institute. The degree completion program that was funded by the legislature is out of that. And what that does for us to give us more flexibility is when funding becomes available, it helps if I have someone working out of the provost office who can go to the deans and say, okay, I need 3 of you and 2 of you and 1 of you. Need to bring the faculty together, need to build the programs we need to build, and then when they're no longer useful, everybody goes back home. So it has built us some wonderful flexibility, and we're only just getting started. We never let up on our focus on quality. And so one of the things we do is look very closely at our programs through regular program reviews. And these are very intensive reviews. We bring in outside consultants as well as peer reviewers to take a look at our programs and making sure that we are doing all that we can do. And then we have various accreditations. We've also, as I mentioned, we're striving to get hip. And that means high impact practices. Lots of conversation, lots of emphasis about that. And those are the things that set the students apart. Internships, study abroad, service learning, undergraduate research, co-ops, those kinds of opportunities that set our graduates apart. Just a look at the program reviews. The big elephant right now is the SAC COC. This is a huge effort. This is a 10-year reaffirmation of our accreditation. Everybody on campus is involved in this. We're writing drafts right now, and we'll have our application ready in the fall under the leadership of Dr. Minear. But look at the other alphabets there. Those are professional accreditations. So beyond our overarching accreditation, various programs, professional study programs in the university have their own accreditations. And this is not a small thing. These are rigorous reviews that make sure our students are getting state-of-the-art curriculum, state-of-the-art experiences, and they're ongoing all the time. A little bit more about high-impact practices and what that looks like. Here are some examples of the things that we're doing. Some of you are familiar. Sherry Hartnett out of the College of Business leads our COB Executive Mentor Program, where our students track and work with mentors in the community. They leave that experience well-connected, well-advised on what's happening in the business world, and usually with a pocket full of business cards and connections. We do internships. Eileen Perigo is one of our many internship coordinators. She's out of the Department of Communication Arts, has done this for a number of years. One of the things you need to know about internships is not just a matter of a student going and hanging out in a business. There's a curriculum there. There are things they need to learn. They need supervising. There is more than just watching and learning. And there's an actual curriculum that goes with that, and we give credit for that. Sometimes they're paid, sometimes they're not. We like for them to be paid. We do service learning. Chris Cotton out of the College of Professional Studies is a social work professor. He takes students to Guatemala, where they learn firsthand how to get things done in a very different social setting, and the kinds of challenges, and they're looking at the kinds of challenges that they will face in the real world. We do learning communities too, and what we talk about, and this is our honors program. These are living learning communities where our students live together, study together, work together, form incredible bonds and relationships as they move on through the program. This has been a very well-documented retention strategy as well. And then we have these fabulous Take It on the Road courses. Patrick Moore, one of our professors of history, has some very popular courses where he piles the students in a van and off they go. You can see he does a Route 66 course. He also has done a Lewis and Clark expedition course. Students are reading the book, Patrick's driving the van, and they go and they see firsthand what they might have only read about. Usually these are summer programs. Keith Winery is one of our professors of education who takes students into the classroom to develop new strategies, in this case in special ed. Wouldn't you love for him to be your third grade teacher? But the students cannot say enough about being able to go in and try new techniques that maybe they would never have gotten to do, or maybe they would have been on their own to do, and they can work together on that. And then we also have real-world experiences. These are two of our political science professors who have developed exit polls. And they've actually developed some models that can predict the outcome of elections, and our students actually go and conduct these exit polls. So these are just examples. This is happening all over the campus, but they are examples of the kinds of work that set our students apart. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that we are ever mindful of resources. We always, in academic affairs, remind ourselves of the rising cost of quality. You can have the best students, you can have the best advising, but at the end of the day, you need the best staff and the best faculty. And we compete with the rest of the country to get and to keep the best staff and the best faculty. And we have to have them in sufficient numbers in order to maintain the quality. You know from having sat around this board that state resources are challenged and limited. Tuition is at a tipping point. We know our students can't carry the full freight of all of this. We're banking big on Brendan and his crew, bringing in lots of outside funding because that helps us with scholarships, but we're also helping ourselves. We're making sure that the programs that we have are at capacity, and if they're not at capacity, we're building them and pushing students to capacity. We're having more online programming, more online partnerships to reduce the stress on our facilities. There are lots of ways of maximizing seat time through online opportunities. And we're partnering with other universities for programs that this community needs. So we've got a lot going on in academic affairs. That completes my report, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Saunders? Thank you so much. Great report. Dr. Kevin Bailey, you want to tell us about how you're annoying people on the telephone?
I would not like to do that, Chair Bear, but I would
Then
like
how
to.
would you like to tell us about the 2000?
Aaron, if you come forward for the presentation. This item has been in front of this board before. We want to continue to update you with information of the FTIC students who were here one semester and not here the next semester, and give you some trend information. And the Haas Center has always been our partner in this endeavor. And so, Aaron, take it away.
Thank you. And thank you for having me here today. My name is Aaron Schmierbeck. I'm with the Haas Center, and I'm going to present our recent survey that we did on the first time in college students, as Dr. Bailey mentioned, that has not, that were enrolled in 2012, that fall semester, and did not re-enroll for the 2013 fall semester. And so just for an overview here, our center has worked with retention, with Dr. Bailey, on obtaining the phone numbers of the students that didn't re-enroll. We got roughly 375 students with their numbers, and 50 of those were either disconnected or no longer had service. So we reached out to roughly 325 students, of which we got feedback from about half of those students, or roughly 50% rate of getting responses from them. Since we've been working with Dr. Bailey a little bit over a year and a half ago, we've done another survey last year from the 2011 cohort, and that was roughly around 60% response rate. So we're keeping a pretty high response rate, trying to reach out to these students. I believe we call 4 times before we give up reaching out to them. So just to go over here is a comparison between, just a side-to-side comparison of these 2 surveys that we've done so far. Looking at the fall 2012 survey, again, those would be students in the fall 2011 cohort that started in 2011 and did not return in fall 2012. And the recent one that we did with first-time in college students starting in 2012 fall and did not return in fall of 2013. We have there our percent of our responses, along with the average GPA of those students' responses for a side-to-side comparison. So that first question there that we asked them once we had permission to survey them was, what kept you from re-enrolling at UWF as a primary reason? Looking at this, we found from our last response, and I believe Dr. Lewis did a presentation probably last year regarding the financial reasons being a big reason last year, looking in 2012, that wasn't as big of a response this time. We only had 9% response saying that financial reasons were the reason that they couldn't re-enroll, and we looked into the Pell Grants and the tuition assistance and scholarships that they received for this 9%, and it actually was not statistically significant from the other responses, and so it seemed like they were getting funding maybe necessary. The 2 that I wanted to point out that are definitely an increase here, as we've mentioned already, Dr. Bentz has mentioned, President Bentz, about the change in grades and being too far from home, being an increase there from 6 to 19% and from 3 to 13%. And of course, with the grades, you can see the students aren't lying there, that they do have a lower GPA there of an average of 0.73 for this latest survey. After that, we asked, once we had them on the phone and we found out why they were no longer attending University of West Florida, we asked them what kept them, what are they currently doing? And here's the responses there, with a majority, over half of them responding that they transferred to another institution or another place to receive their degree. I think it's important to note that looking for work in military was higher than last time, with roughly 1/3 of the responses, and that could be a function, again, as we've mentioned, students having to go back for financial reasons, the economy improving, possibly better job opportunities that they had a year or 2 years ago. Once we asked those 57% where they transferred to, I think the surprising thing here is, and it's remained constant here, or consistent, is that majority of them are going to a Florida State College, a 4-year degree program like a Pensacola State College or a Northwest Florida State College, with over 70% of those responding going there. And that's possibly, as we'll find out, to increase their grades or possibly because of costs. So that's something to note there, is their UWF GPA is listed there of 1.5. And consistently, again, roughly 15% going to a state university, another state university school, and then the others are listed out there as well. This question has been consistent from the last 2 surveys that we've done, and so one thing to note, I know was mentioned that we're looking elsewhere for where we can get the higher quality students from Jacksonville, from some of the other MSAs. And so something maybe to note or to keep in mind is that location close to home was one of the highest reasons that they're transferring back. So just, again, although quality of the student is key, and we want to bring in high-quality students, they do get homesick, it seems like, and some of them go back. And then something that I thought was very positive and kind of silver lining in this is that there is a high probability here that they find that they will somehow or some way come back to the university, somewhat likely. Over 44% that responded that they were at least likely to come back to UWF of these 160 students that responded to the survey. Another 7% are unsure, so combining that, we have roughly half of these students that we could reach out to, and with programs like We Want You Back, hopefully we'll get these students to come back and keep re-enrolling at UWF. So, and we know that this is a Board of BOG metric, and so we are going to continue on with the survey, gathering this data, working with retention, and continue reaching out to students and finding out why they're not re-enrolling at UWF. Yes?
You mentioned when you started out 275 non-returnees, you could only contact 2 1/4.
Oh, we had 375.
375, you could contact 3 1/4, and you got responses about 50%.
Correct.
What's the gross number in 12 of non-returnees versus the number in 13?
I believe it was a little bit higher. We actually ran this also, which I was not able to combine with the survey yet, but we also ran this in the springtime semester as well, and so I had to subtract out, I believe it was roughly 570 total for 2012 that did not return, and I subtracted those out because we didn't want to call them again. So we do have some spring results as well.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Can you tell us a little bit more about the too far from home? When I talk to students on campus and what they've told me too far from home means, do you drill down in that on the interviews?
No, we don't. If they're willing to open up, we'll definitely accept any of this. But these are telephone surveys, and so usually they're pretty short. I think 40 students declined to even participate in this.
The feedback I've gotten from students is that I can't drive home on Friday after classes and have any quality time with my friends and family and get back on Monday morning because of the distance that might be between, whether it's Jacksonville, Gainesville, or even further south in the state. And so if I can't drive, the cost of in-state airfare or the cost of any airfare that would get you down there is a complicating factor as well to what it means by too far from home.
While we don't have that specific information for us, the data nationally indicates that a 4-hour drive, there's a trigger point with students. If they're more than 4-hour drive from home, you're going to see a difference in the retention of those students.
Well, one of the states that sort of struggles like we do is the state of New York with its students. Many of the state of New York's premier universities are located in the northern part of the state, not a highly populated area, the Appalachian area, mountains in that area, Albany, but yet some of the greatest schools in the states are up there. Dartmouth is up there. And so an example of something that they do is that they use their foundation programs to offer those students, those highly touted students, two plane tickets home a year. If that will make the difference in getting you home and getting you back with your friends or getting you more time with your family in addition to holidays, and you're free to use those tickets whenever. And then the other thing they do is that they also offer a ticket for parents to come on campus. A ticket or compensate with gas, cards, or whatever it takes to close that gap a little bit. I think we know that when it comes to the students, it's, mom and dad are fine, but it's your friends that you're usually missing real bad when you're a freshman. Yeah. And so I would think that a fundraiser around that, and also looking at trying to understand our airfare system in the state of Florida, but we can't influence that. But I just think that's something really that they've had a lot of success, and I witnessed that firsthand being adjacent to a little community called Gardner, Montana, that because those kids grew up in Yellowstone National Park, they went to every premier school in the country, but all of them were bad homesick. And all of them who went to major universities received assistance, transportation assistance to come home to keep them working. So
Good idea.
maybe that might be something to listen to.
Are there other questions or comments? Dr. Bailey?
Chair Bayer, if I may. We will continue to work with the Haas Center in providing these statistics around students who don't return to the institution, but certainly everything you heard prior to this presentation from President Bentz and Dr. Gaiman would suggest that we should see some reduction in students leaving because of financial reasons, or some reductions in students leaving because of grades, because of the higher SAT score, or because we're going to package our financial aid differently. And so our provost is famous for saying we want more of the students who are the good students, the ones who are likely to stay, and we will continue to do that. But reporting this information will still be part of what we do with this group in the future.
Thank you. I'd now like to call on Dr. Barnett to give us an update on BEI.
Well, good afternoon. How's everyone doing here? Ready for lunch, I'm sure. The presentation boards have been out in the corridor, hopefully on break. You've been able to see them. We'll make my comments brief and I'll ask for questions. First of all, East Campus, President Benz mentioned in her opening remarks that we will be having a groundbreaking April 4th. We are very excited about that. While it's taken a while to get to this point, we feel like we've done it the right way, and we're very proud of that, and we'll continue to do so. We're on undeveloped land, so we'll bring the correct footwear because we cannot control the weather. We will have it tent and make it as nice as possible. The project budget we continue to evaluate. We had a phone call, in fact, yesterday morning, and that is a in-process task. Compass Chartwells continues to negotiate and market the leases. Therefore, there are no venues that I can identify this day. We are working on that. I think that is the number one question that I get throughout my days. We will find the right ones. The most important one, of course, is the anchor. And while 25,000 cars go by that intersection every day, the number one goal that we have is that development meet the needs of the University of West Florida first, and also that it provides a complement to the community. So it's very important that we take our time. Compass Chartwells understands that charge, and that is redundantly mentioned to them. The fourth point on East Campus is that the development agreement and right of entry is also in process. So from an update from the February meeting, Finance Facilities, we are close, but we want that to follow the University Dining Services contract execution. So it is a 1-2 process. So we want to, of course, get these agreements right because we have one time to do it, and that's the first time. On University Park, Balfour Beatty is coming in on campus this Thursday and Friday. The goal will be to listen to their presentations for finance model options. They provided two to us a couple of weeks ago. As you saw in my update, we asked them to go back and give us another option for equity. And so we are anxious to get those presentations this week. We are continually monitoring and leading them. As I mentioned to the Finance Facilities Committee, we are leading, we're not following, and it is a process where that we talk to them sometimes daily, but we have a set up a scheduled conference call with them each week. And I would tell you that they are extraordinarily good to work with. And I would also go back to mention that Compass Chartwells is as well. Given that time is short, and I had provided you a written update and also a newsletter from the Scenic Hills Country Club, I would be very pleased to respond to your questions at this time.
Are there questions? All right, thank you. We appreciate it, Dr. Barnett.
Thank you.
We look forward to coming out of the ground.
Yes, sir.
Is there any other business to be brought before the meeting? I would like to remind all of the trustees that April is busy with the groundbreaking for East Campus on the 4th, as well as Honors Convocation, Festival on the Green, the 4th and 5th, and Nautilus Excellence Awards are on the 18th, and we've got a list of other events coming up in May. It's always nice to have the trustees at any and all of these events.
I was just going to point out that we did bring the Festival on the Green program. They're at your stations. And also, some of you had requested to receive a poster because you like to frame it and put it in your office to, of course, draw attention to the university. So we do have those available for the trustees. Becky has them if you would like to have one.
Thank you. I'd also remind you, please, to fill out your evaluation forms and turn them in to Becky. And if there's no other business, meeting is adjourned.
Lunch, where's lunch? In the other room?
Lunch is in the next building over.
Great.